Oscar, this meeting is for employees only. You can go home. The room fell silent for a moment. I instinctively tensed up. Sure, I only have a high school diploma, but I'm confident in my hands-on experience and knowledge. Oh, Oscar, do you think you can keep up with today's difficult meeting? Yes, I'll do my best. All eyes in the conference room turned to me. All right, let's hear everyone's thoughts on the new business project. As ideas were shared one after another, I raised my hand. Yes, I have a proposal as well. Any other ideas? Constructive suggestions? Completely ignored, I looked around in surprise, but everyone avoided my gaze, staring awkwardly at the table. The meeting dragged on longer than expected, so a break was announced. As the colleagues went to grab coffee or use the restroom, Megan, the department head, approached me. Oscar, keep your comments to a minimum. I told you, this meeting is for college graduates only. You should leave immediately. Megan leaned in and whispered so no one else could hear, pressing me to leave. Understood. I bowed my head and left. The next day, while reading the newspaper, Megan began trembling. My name is Oscar Kingston. I'm 37 years old. I've been working as a systems engineer at FutureTech, a major IT company, for 15 years. On the surface, I'm just a regular employee, but I'm actually a major shareholder in the company. My grandfather founded the company, and I inherited a significant portion of its stock, though I've never disclosed this to anyone. I take great pride in my work. My skills in system development are among the best in the company. However, I'm not one to boast. I prefer to quietly focus on my tasks, as it suits my personality. My colleagues trust me deeply, and it's not uncommon to hear them say, if we follow Oscar, we can't go wrong. My hobbies include playing chess and reading Japanese classical literature. I've reread The Tale of the Heike countless times. The philosophy of impermanence resonates with the rapid changes in the IT industry. Chess helps me sharpen my ability to anticipate and assess situations. This strategic thinking often proves invaluable at work. In high school, I was the captain of the kendo team. With a 4th rank, I even competed in national tournaments. The sense of harmony I learned in kendo remains important to me. Respecting others and maintaining self-discipline. This principle is also applied to my work. These values guide how I interact with my team and negotiate with clients. I often chat with Ian, the chief of security at the company. A former member of the self-defense forces, Ian has taught me many principles of organizational management. The phrase Ian taught me, an organization is like a living organism. It functions only when the whole is in harmony, has particularly stayed with me. Keeping this wisdom in mind, I place great importance on teamwork in my daily work. My serious and hard-working nature, however, sometimes backfires. My relationship with Megan, the new department head, has been tense from the start. She studied business administration at a prestigious university overseas and tends to dismiss the traditional values of Japanese corporate culture. It seems she views my steady, hands-on approach as outdated. Even so, I intend to stick to my way of working. I continually educate myself to stay current with technological advances while cherishing the spirit of harmony. I believe this is the path to supporting not just our company but the entire Japanese IT industry. It's about balancing respect for the culture and values built by our predecessors with adapting to a new era. I believe that balance is the true meaning of innovation. As the company's major shareholder, a role I inherited from my grandfather, I see this as both a heavy burden and a profound mission. I watch over the company's future, ready to make critical decisions when necessary. To do so, I make a continuous effort to stay informed about the company's overall situation and analyze it with a calm mind. While I may appear to be a regular employee on the surface, deep down, I feel the responsibility of a business leader. As I carry out my daily tasks, I'm always thinking about the company's future. In a world where technological innovation accelerates daily, I ponder how to grow the company while protecting the happiness of its employees. This pursuit for answers continues every day. Drawing on my experience and the legacy of my grandfather, I sit down at my keyboard once again today. The future of our company lies in the hands of each and every one of us. With this conviction, I commit myself to my work with all my energy. Since Megan's appointment as the new department head, the atmosphere at our company has drastically changed. When the internal email announcing her arrival hit my inbox, I felt an uneasy premonition. That feeling was quickly validated. Good morning, everyone. I'm Megan. I'll be leading this department moving forward. It's a pleasure to work with you, she said with a smile during her introductory meeting. But her eyes weren't smiling. I studied business administration at a prestigious overseas university. I'll be implementing the management methods I learned there to reform this department. Her words caused a stir among the colleagues. I frowned. New knowledge is undoubtedly important, but forcing it upon others isn't the way to go. That afternoon, Megan summoned me to her office. Oscar, I've heard about your past achievements, but we need to bring in fresh perspectives moving forward. Yes, I agree. That's why I've always been committed to learning new technologies and methods. No, that's not what I mean. Your way of working is too old-fashioned. You need to be more aggressive and move faster. I was at a loss for words. It felt as though my years of experience and accomplishments were being completely dismissed. The next day, Megan made a major announcement. I'm pleased to announce the leader of our upcoming new project. Andrew, you'll take the lead. I was stunned. I had always led projects of this scale. But Andrew was one of Megan's close allies and lacked deep technical knowledge. Thank you. I'll do my best. Andrew responded with pride. I couldn't shake a growing sense of unease. That evening, I sought advice from Ian. Oscar, don't rush. Sometimes retreating is part of the strategy. Watch quietly for now and wait for the right moment, he said. But if things keep going like this, the company will. I know. But for now, be patient. The time will come when your strength will be needed. Ian's words helped me restrain myself. However, the situation deteriorated more quickly than I could have imagined. Megan began implementing a series of new measures. First, she eliminated the morning radio exercises that had been a cherished tradition. That's outdated. Let's use that time for morning brainstorming sessions instead. I could hear murmurs of discontent from the colleagues. The radio exercises were more than just a physical activity. They were a space for casual communication among colleagues. Suddenly, they were replaced by tense morning meetings. Next, Megan revamped the office decorations. Slogans emphasizing harmony and balance were taken down and replaced with foreign-style quotes. Think outside the box. Innovation is the key to success. The messages weren't wrong, per se. But the abrupt change left colleagues visibly unsettled. Then came the biggest shock. The annual company trip, a tradition everyone looked forward to, was drastically altered. This year, the trip will be to a luxury resort overseas. It's perfect for fostering an international perspective. At first, it sounded like an extravagant treat. But the reality was different. Megan, the budget isn't enough. Employees will have to cover 3 times the usual costs themselves. That's worth the investment. It's for everyone's benefit. I was stunned. In the past, the trips were modest getaways to hot springs, thoughtfully planned to ensure everyone could participate. Now, it was clear some colleagues wouldn't be able to afford to go. Megan, can we reconsider this plan? Oscar, you're always so negative. Try looking ahead for a change. She dismissed my concerns outright. Some of my colleagues gave me sympathetic looks, but no one dared to speak up. That evening, Kristen, the HR manager, approached me as I was leaving. Oscar, are you all right? It seems like things aren't going well with Megan. Yes. I'm managing somehow. Take it easy. We all know how much you contribute. Kristen's words offered a small measure of comfort, but the situation didn't improve. The new project quickly ran into trouble. Andrew's leadership was ineffective, and the team was in disarray. I tried offering advice several times, but I was coldly dismissed with, "Oscar, please don't interfere with our way of doing things." Meanwhile, the company's performance began to decline. Customer complaints were increasing, and employee turnover rates were rising. Yet Megan seemed oblivious to these warning signs. "Everyone, let's work harder. We're competing on a global stage." I could hear the collective sighs from the colleagues. One day, I accidentally overheard a conversation between Megan and Andrew. "Andrew, this can't go on. We need to make the numbers look better. But the actual performance, that doesn't matter. Just make sure my evaluation doesn't take a hit." I was shocked. Megan wasn't acting for the good of the company. She was acting for her own reputation. That night, for the first time in years, I found myself speaking to my grandfather's memorial tablet. "Grandpa, what should I do? If things continue like this, the company you built will." There was no response, of course, but a strange sense of calm washed over me. I made a decision. I couldn't stay silent any longer. To protect the company and my colleagues, I had to do what I could. However, my resolve would soon face its greatest test. Megan's reforms continued to worsen the atmosphere at our company day by day. One morning, I headed to Megan's office with an important proposal in hand. A plan for a new system development project. It was something I had spent months preparing. "Megan, this is a proposal for a new project." She took the document, glanced at it briefly, and then tossed it onto her desk. "Oscar, this won't do. We need something more innovative. But this plan is based on a thorough analysis of customer needs. We decide what the customers want. Think of something more groundbreaking that will amaze the world." I was at a loss for words. Ignoring customer needs went completely against our long-standing principles. That afternoon, Megan called an emergency meeting. "Everyone, I'm excited to announce a new project." "Andrew, please explain." Andrew stood up, looking pleased with himself. "Thank you. We're embarking on the development of a fully automated AI system. It will minimize human intervention and maximize efficiency." I was stunned. Such a radical project was unrealistic. Moreover, it could potentially take away many employees' jobs. "Megan, isn't this project premature? We don't yet have the technical capability to." "Oscar, it's you again." Always with the negative comments. "This project is already a done deal." The room fell silent. Everyone could sense the tension between Megan and me. From that day forward, the new project progressed at breakneck speed. As expected, problems piled up. Technical hurdles, budget overruns, and worst of all, a sharp decline in employee morale. One day, Kevin, a young engineer, came to see me. "Oscar, is this project really going to be okay? Honestly, it's a tough situation. But for now, we all need to work together and do our best. But at this rate, the company..." "I know. Leave it to me." I tried to reassure Kevin, but I couldn't shake my own doubts. Then, the worst-case scenario happened. During testing, the AI system malfunctioned and destroyed critical customer data. An emergency meeting was called. The conference room was filled with a heavy atmosphere. "How did this happen?" Someone explain. "We're terribly sorry. An unforeseen bug caused." No excuses. Just come up with a solution immediately. At that moment, I stood up. "Megan, I will take responsibility for addressing this issue." "You? But this project isn't your responsibility." "That's true. However, I have a plan to resolve this problem." Reluctantly, Megan agreed. I quickly assembled a response team and began working around the clock to restore the system. I endured days with little sleep, eating meals at my desk, as we worked tirelessly. And a week later, we finally succeeded in recovering the data and made significant progress in stabilizing the system. Although the trust of our clients hadn't been fully regained, we had averted the worst-case scenario. Exhausted, I reported to Megan. Megan, the recovery efforts are complete. I see, well done. Her words carried no trace of gratitude. The next day, she held another all-hands meeting. Everyone, the recent incident was deeply regrettable. However, this is an opportunity for us to push forward with even greater innovation. I couldn't believe my ears. She still planned to continue with her so-called reforms. Specifically, we will be restructuring staff allocations. Some departments will be downsized, while the new business division will be expanded. Murmurs of concern spread throughout the colleagues. This was effectively a declaration of layoffs. Megan, shouldn't we deliberate on this more carefully? Oscar, your opinion is not required. And this decision is final. After the meeting, the office was engulfed in anxiety and unease. Everyone began worrying about their job security. Ian approached me. Oscar, this isn't working. You need to do something. I know. But right now, there's no time. You have to act before the company collapses. I fell into deep thought. It was clear that allowing Megan to do as she pleased was no longer an option. But I still felt it wasn't the right time to reveal my position as a major shareholder. Her recklessness showed no signs of stopping. Unreasonable demands kept coming. Longer working hours, unrealistic deadlines, and intrusive meddling in employees' personal lives. One day, Michael, a young employee, came to me in tears. Oscar, I can't take it anymore. I'm thinking about resigning. Michael, please wait a little longer. Things will change, I promise. But trust me. This company has a bright future. As I reassured him, my heart grew heavier. At this rate, we would lose talented people like him. I resolved to act. The time had come. Our company was nearing a breaking point. Megan's unilateral management decisions were driving the company into chaos, and morale had hit rock bottom. Then one day, an email was sent to all employees, calling for an emergency meeting. The tense, worried faces of the employees filled the meeting room. I sat down, feeling my heart race. At the scheduled time, Megan walked in briskly. Thank you all for gathering today. I have an important announcement to make. A wave of tension swept through the room. Our company is falling behind in adapting to globalization. Therefore, we've decided to form a strategic partnership with a major overseas IT corporation. The room buzzed with murmurs. Along with this, we will undergo a significant organizational restructuring. Specifically, half of the current departments will be merged or eliminated to establish a new structure. I was stunned. This is practically a declaration of massive layoffs. I looked around and saw the employees' faces turning pale. And to ensure the smooth implementation of this new structure, all key meetings will now be conducted in English. At that moment, the meeting room fell into an eerie silence, as if frozen. From now on, English proficiency will be one of the evaluation criteria. Please make sure to prepare yourselves. Those words darkened the employees' expressions even more. The older employees, in particular, looked utterly hopeless. I stood up, preparing to speak. Megan, please wait a moment. This decision. But she cut me off. Oscar, this meeting is for employees only. You can leave now. Shock rippled through the room. I was stunned but tried to maintain my composure. However, I am also an employee, and... Oh? Didn't you hear me? This meeting is for employees only. Someone like you, stuck in the past, has no relevance here. All eyes in the room turned toward me. Pity, confusion, and fear. A mix of emotions reflected in their gazes as they looked at me. I took a deep breath and slowly stood up. Understood. Excuse me, then. With that, I slowly exited the room. Just as I was closing the door, I heard Megan's triumphant laughter. I stepped into the hallway and leaned against the wall. My heart was pounding intensely. Though humiliation and anger surged within me, my concern for the company's future weighed heavier. Then, her voice carried through the door. Well, everyone, we're going to change this company for real. Those who can't keep up are free to leave. Something snapped inside me. I can't let this continue. The time to act had come. I left the building immediately. On my way home, countless thoughts swirled in my mind. The shares I inherited from my grandfather and the responsibility they entailed. The position I've kept hidden until now. And the colleagues I hold dear. When I arrived home, I went straight to sit before my grandfather's portrait. Grandpa, I can't take it anymore. I need to protect the company and my colleagues. I closed my eyes and took a deep breath. My resolve solidified. The next morning, I arrived at work early. The office was still quiet. Sitting at my desk, I turned on my computer. I sent an important email. About an hour later, my phone rang. Hello, this is Oscar. Oscar, come to my office immediately. Understood. I headed to the president's office with determination. I knocked, waited for a reply, and opened the door. Inside, next to Mr. Kennedy, stood Megan. Her face was pale, a stark contrast to the smug expression she had worn the previous day. Oscar, take a seat. I sat down as instructed. I read the email you sent me. Is it true? Yes, it is. Wait a minute. What are you talking about? Ignoring her, Mr. Kennedy continued speaking to me. I never imagined you were the company's major shareholder, let alone the founder's grandson. Megan's face twisted in shock. What? What did you just say? I took a deep breath and began to explain. Yes, my grandfather founded this company. I inherited the majority of its shares after his passing. However, I wanted to contribute to the company based on my own abilities, so I've kept this a secret until now. This can't be. Oscar, why didn't you tell us this earlier? I'm sorry. But given the current critical state of the company, I could no longer stay silent. Mr. Kennedy let out a deep sigh. I see. So, what do you propose we do? First, I would like yesterday's announcements about the organizational restructuring and conducting meetings in English to be rescinded. Wait. You can't do that. If we... Megan, be quiet. She fell silent. I'd also like an opportunity to explain the situation and our future direction to all employees. After a moment of thought, Mr. Kennedy nodded. Very well. I'll leave it to you. Mr. Kennedy. You can't be serious. Megan, your role ends here. We'll discuss your situation with HR. Her face turned ashen. That afternoon, an emergency all-staff meeting was convened. The large conference room was packed with employees. Their faces a mix of anxiety and anticipation as they watched me. Taking a deep breath, I picked up the microphone. Thank you all for gathering here today. I have an important announcement to make. The room fell silent. First, I must share the truth about myself. I am the grandson of this company's founder and its major shareholder. The room erupted in murmurs of surprise. I sincerely apologize for keeping this a secret. However, given the critical situation our company is facing, I felt I could no longer remain silent. I proceeded to detail the flaws in Megan's policies and the events leading up to the current crisis. I could see the employees' expressions gradually shift from shock to understanding. I'm here to announce that the organizational restructuring and the English-only meeting policy announced yesterday have been rescinded. A collective sigh of relief swept through the room. Moving forward, I want to rebuild this company together with all of you. Our strength lies not in chasing individual achievements but in fostering teamwork and a long-term vision. That is our pride and our greatest asset. The room erupted into applause. We will work on new reforms together, incorporating your feedback along the way. Let's build a better future tech together. The applause grew louder, and I noticed a few employees wiping tears from their eyes. After the meeting, many employees approached me. Thank you, Oscar. Let's work hard together from now on. We'll follow your lead. Each word resonated deeply within me. That evening, for the first time in a long while, I left the office early and returned home. When I got home, I went straight to my grandfather's memorial tablet. Grandpa, I finally did what I needed to do. From now on, I'll look after the company you built, together with everyone. The sound of the wind chime echoed softly in the quiet room. It felt as though my grandfather was acknowledging my resolve. A month had passed since our company began transitioning to its new structure. The atmosphere in the company was gradually improving, but the negative legacy left by Megan still weighed heavily on us. One morning, Stephen, the head of the engineering department, came rushing toward me, looking distressed. Oscar, it's serious. We've discovered a bug in Navigator Next. And it's a severe one. I held my breath. Navigator Next was our flagship product. If there were issues with it, the company's very survival could be at stake. Explain it to me in detail. Stephen explained that under specific conditions, the system could output incorrect information. Several customers had already reported issues. We need to form a response team immediately. Stephen, you'll be the leader. Understood. By the end of the day, we had assembled a team of our best engineers to address the problem. The tension in the meeting room was palpable. Everyone, you understand the situation. This is a matter of life and death for the company. We must resolve it as quickly as possible. Kevin, a young engineer, raised his hand. Oscar, to be honest, this is a very tough problem. It might even be a fundamental design flaw. I sighed deeply. But giving up wasn't an option. I understand. But I also know we have the capability to solve this. Let's combine our knowledge and efforts. The team worked around the clock. We took meals and naps in the meeting room as days turned into nights. Yet, no clear solution emerged. Late one night, seeing the exhausted faces of the engineers, I made a decision. Everyone, let's take a break. Resting is also part of the process. But Oscar, we're short on time. I know. But pushing ourselves without rest won't lead to good ideas. Let's resume tomorrow morning with fresh minds. The next morning, I arrived early and was making coffee. Just then, Kevin burst in, visibly excited. Oscar, I've got an idea. That's great to hear. Kevin's idea was innovative. It proposed tackling the problem with an entirely new approach, different from our usual methods. All right, let's test it right away. The entire team reviewed Kevin's concept and began implementing it. 3 days later, we finally succeeded in solving the problem. We did it, Oscar. The issue is completely resolved. Relief washed over me as I shook hands with every team member. Thank you, everyone. Your hard work has saved this company. But our celebration was short-lived. The media caught wind of the issue and began covering it extensively. Future Tech embroiled in another scandal. Major defect in Navigator Next, trust in the company shaken. The issues surrounding our company were covered daily in newspapers and on television. Our stock price plummeted, and inquiries from clients flooded in. I stood at the press conference podium. The journalists, with stern expressions, fixed their eyes on me. First, I would like to sincerely apologize to everyone affected and concerned by the issues with Navigator Next. I bowed deeply. We have already identified a solution to the problem and have begun distributing the corrective program. Furthermore, we will use this experience to establish a stricter quality control system. Incisive questions were asked one after another. Following your company's previous misconduct, this latest defect raises serious concerns about your technological capabilities. What is your response? I hesitated for a moment but quickly regained my composure. As you pointed out, our shortcomings have led to this situation. However, our technological capabilities are by no means inferior. We have tackled this issue as a unified team and have gained new technical insights in the process. We will use this experience as a stepping stone for further innovation. After the press conference, I returned to the waiting room, where Ian approached me. "You did well, Oscar." That was an impressive response. "Thank you, but there's still much to do." "That's right. The real battle starts now." As if on cue, the next challenge arose. Major clients began calling for contract reviews. I desperately visited our clients. I repeatedly apologized and explained, striving to restore their trust. During a critical meeting with a significant client, harsh words were thrown my way. "Oscar, to be honest, we consider it too risky to continue using your products." I took a deep breath and responded with determination. "You are absolutely right. We have made serious mistakes. However, I believe that we can emerge stronger from this. We are committed to applying the lessons we've learned to deliver safer and more reliable systems. Please give us another chance." The client's eyes fixed intently on me. Then, he slowly began to speak. "Understood. Your sincerity has come across. We'll monitor the situation for now." I bowed deeply. Back at the office, the employees looked at me with anxious faces. "It's okay. We still have a chance. The real fight starts now." My words brought a slight sense of relief to their expressions. But the difficult situation continued. Some clients terminated contracts, and securing new projects became increasingly difficult. The company's financial situation worsened by the day. One day, Scott, the head of accounting, came to see me. "Oscar, at this rate, we'll run into cash flow issues. We may need to consider staff reductions." I interrupted him. "Staff reductions are the last resort. Let's explore other options first." I racked my brain, searching for a solution. Finally, an idea struck me. "Scott, could we leverage some of our patents to create a new revenue stream?" "Patents?" "Yes. We could license our technology to other companies. It wouldn't require significant investment." Scott's eyes lit up. "That might work. I'll look into it right away." The proposal brought new hope to the company. By licensing our patents, we had the potential to secure a stable revenue stream. Meanwhile, rebuilding the core business remained an urgent task. I gathered the development team and laid out a new direction. "Listen, everyone. We are facing a critical moment, but we cannot afford to give up. Let's re-evaluate our strengths in technology." The engineers listened intently, their expressions serious. "Remember the teamwork and creativity that helped us resolve the issues with Navigator Next. We have the power to overcome this difficulty." Marcus, the chief engineer, stood up. "Oscar, we have an idea," Marcus said, standing tall. "We might be able to use the technology we developed to solve the Navigator Next issue to create an entirely new product." My eyes lit up. "That's fantastic. Start drafting a proposal immediately." From that day, the development team immersed themselves in creating the new product. The team worked tirelessly, day and night, without a single complaint. Everyone was fully committed to this fight for the company's future. 3 months later, the prototype for the new product, Future Navi, was complete. It was a next-generation navigation system powered by AI and big data. This system didn't just provide traffic information. It learned user behavior and preferences to suggest the best routes and even destinations. Holding the prototype, I was speechless with emotion. Thank you all so much. This will undoubtedly revolutionize the industry. Pride and confidence shone in the eyes of every team member. The launch event for the new product drew a large crowd of media representatives. The critical stares that once dominated were replaced with looks of eager anticipation. Today, we are proud to introduce our new product, Future Navi. This is more than just a navigation system. It's a partner for the future, designed to enrich users' lives and offer a new level of experience. The journalists were intently taking notes. The Q&A session was filled with technical inquiries. There have been doubts about your company's technical capabilities in the past. Will this product address those concerns? I responded confidently. Yes, I believe it will. This product represents the culmination of our collective efforts and expertise. It's also a testament to the lessons we've learned and our commitment to reaching new heights. The reaction to the launch exceeded all expectations. Media outlets covered the event with headlines such as "Future Tech signals a triumphant comeback." The company's stock price began to rise, and inquiries from potential partners increased. For the first time in a long while, a sense of vitality returned to Future Tech. 3 months after the launch of Future Navi, the market response was overwhelmingly positive. The company's performance was showing clear signs of recovery. However, I remained vigilant. My experiences had taught me that crises could emerge from anywhere, at any time. One morning, Kristen, the HR director, burst into my office in a panic. "Oscar, there's trouble. Something suspicious is happening internally." "What's going on?" "There are rumors that some of Megan's former subordinates are leaking sensitive company information to external parties." I frowned deeply. Megan's influence was still lingering. "Do we have any evidence?" "Nothing concrete yet, but multiple employees have reported similar concerns." "Understood. Let's set up an investigation team immediately." By the end of the day, a special task force led by Ian was assembled. They began gathering information covertly, searching for evidence of wrongdoing. A few days later, Ian came to my office. "Oscar, the rumors appear to be true. 3 of Megan's former subordinates, Matthew, Aaron, and Henry, seem to have been selling information about our new technology to a competitor." I let out a deep sigh. "All right. Let's bring them in for questioning." We summoned the 3 employees individually for interviews. At first, they denied everything, but when confronted with evidence, they finally confessed. "We're sorry, but we were acting under Megan's instructions." "Megan? She no longer works here." "Yes, but she's still in contact with us and giving us directives." The situation was more severe than I had anticipated. Even after leaving the company, she had left behind collaborators, aiming to damage Future Tech from within. I called an emergency board meeting. "Everyone, as you are aware, we are facing another crisis." The executives' expressions grew tense. "But this time is different. We have experience, and we are united. Let's turn this crisis into an opportunity to strengthen the company." Samuel, the chief financial officer, spoke up. "However, if this information leak becomes public, our stock price will plummet again. If we mishandle this, the company's survival could be at stake." I nodded solemnly. "You're absolutely right. That's why we need to act preemptively." I began outlining my plan. The plan is to disclose the fact of the data leak and implement a thorough internal reform. Sebastian, the chief technology officer, expressed concerns. "Isn't that too risky?" It's like reopening a wound for everyone to see. The risk is high, yes. But if we try to hide this, the eventual consequences will be far worse. We must face the facts head on and overcome them. That's what defines our company's integrity and strength. The discussion was intense, but in the end, my proposal was approved. When the information leak was disclosed, the media erupted with criticism of our company. Our stock price plummeted, and some clients terminated contracts. One day, I stood before the press again. The journalists' stern faces bore down on me as they fired questions. Why was your company unable to prevent such an incident? Doesn't this expose significant flaws in your management? Can your company's products still be trusted? Questions came flying at me like arrows. I took a deep breath and began responding calmly. First, I deeply apologize for allowing this situation to occur. It's true that our management systems had areas that needed improvement. But that's exactly why we've committed to extensive reforms. I detailed the changes we were implementing and concluded with. We are not perfect, but we are committed to continuous growth and evolution. We see this crisis as an opportunity to become a stronger, more trusted company. After the press conference, the atmosphere within the company began to shift. The spark of determination and pride started returning to the employees' eyes. One day, Kevin, a young engineer, approached me. "Oscar, we've come up with a new idea." "Tell me." "Yes." Building on what we've learned from this incident, we've developed a safer, more reliable system. If we integrate it into future Navi, it could greatly enhance the product's value. I looked into Kevin's enthusiastic eyes and smiled. "That's an excellent idea. Let's start working on it right away." The proposal exceeded all expectations. The improved future Navi, with enhanced security and reliability, received high praise from companies prioritizing these features, leading to new contracts. Meanwhile, internal reforms progressed steadily. A new compliance system was established, and younger employees were promoted into leadership roles. The company's atmosphere grew livelier and more energized by the day. One day, I called Ian and Kristen into my office. "Thank you both. I couldn't have gotten this far without your support." "No, it's your decisions and leadership that made all this possible." "Exactly. You earned everyone's trust, and that's why we've overcome this crisis." I bowed deeply to both of them. Finally, the results of our reforms began to show in tangible ways. The stock price recovered, new contracts surged, and ethical management agencies gave us high ratings. One day, Mr. Kennedy summoned me. "Oscar, you've done an incredible job. Thanks to you, the company has entered a new phase." "No, it's thanks to the efforts of everyone in the company." "That's true. Now, I have a new role I'd like to propose for you." "A new role?" "I want to nominate you as the next president of Future Tech." I was momentarily speechless. But my resolve quickly solidified. "Thank you. I'll dedicate myself fully to the role." 6 months had passed since I took over as Future Tech's new president. The company continued to grow steadily, and the Future Navi series maintained its position as the industry leader. However, a new aspiration began to grow within me. I wanted to create more opportunities for people, regardless of their educational background or past experience. That desire grew stronger each day. One day, I made a significant decision. I established an entirely new department within Future Tech, the Future Creation Division. This department would recruit talented individuals without regard for their academic qualifications and turn bold ideas into reality. Products and services born in this division would be returned to society to benefit everyone. 6 months after its establishment, the Future Creation Division began delivering a series of groundbreaking projects. From new mobility solutions for those with limited transportation options, to environmentally friendly renewable energy systems. and AI-based learning tools to address educational disparities, the division's innovations flourished. One day, we received a request for an in-depth feature from a TV station. At first, I hesitated, but I realized that spreading awareness of these initiatives was just as important as creating them. On the broadcast day, I sat nervously in front of the television. The Future Creation Division of Future Tech invites challengers from all walks of life. We delve into the origins of its visionary leader, President Oscar Kingston. The screen displayed an essay I had written in high school. Titled My Dream, it read, "My dream is to create a society where everyone is given a fair chance. A world where effort, not one's educational background or family circumstances, determines success. I will make that world a reality." My eyes welled up. To think that the pure aspirations I had as a teenager were now coming to life. The response to the program was overwhelming. Numerous companies reached out, inspired to implement similar initiatives, and the government even recognized us with an award. One day, I received an unexpected visitor. "Oscar, do you remember me?" Standing before me was Ms. Anderson, my high school homeroom teacher. "Do you remember that essay?" "I kept it all these years." "Ms. Anderson, to be honest, I was worried about you back then. But you've truly made that dream a reality." Ms. Anderson, with tears in her eyes, bowed deeply to me. "Oscar, thank you. You've given hope to so many people." I couldn't hold back my tears either. The next day, I gathered all the employees for a meeting. "Everyone, we've come this far thanks to each and every one of you. Let's continue building an even brighter future together." A wave of applause filled the room. Glancing out the window, I noticed a beautiful rainbow arching across the sky. That evening, I returned to my childhood home for the first time in a long while. "Oscar, you've worked so hard." "Yes, but there's still more to do." "That's true. But I'm sure your father and grandfather are so proud of you," watching from heaven. Without saying a word, I hugged her tightly. Later that night, I stepped into the garden and looked up at the starry sky. The struggles, the joy, and the present happiness. All of it felt like part of one grand story. One morning, I arrived at the office earlier than usual, as always. A voice called out from behind me. "Well done, Oscar." I turned to see Chairman, Mr. Kennedy, standing there. "Mr. Kennedy. No, it was thanks to everyone. No, it was your leadership that made it possible. You've become a remarkable leader." I bowed deeply. "So, what's next?" "Next? Your technology is no longer just for Japan. The world is waiting for it." I silently looked up at the ceiling. "We'll take on the world." Mr. Kennedy nodded in satisfaction. "Good. I'll be rooting for you. Go get them, Mr. Kingston." His words renewed my determination. Megan's downfall continued even after she left our company. It began with her reassignment to an affiliated company and spiraled into a series of hardships throughout her life. The company she was transferred to was one of our subsidiary, small parts manufacturer. Her role there was a standard employee. No authority, no prestige, everything she once had was gone. At first, Megan worked hard, trying to prove her abilities. But without any hands-on knowledge, she couldn't grasp even the basics of her job. One day, her supervisor summoned her for a stern reprimand. "Megan, your performance is riddled with problems. Can't you handle even these simple tasks?" "I'm sorry. But I'm meant for more significant responsibilities. Harvard degrees and the like mean nothing here. In this workplace, only results matter." Those words made Megan realize just how arrogant she had been. But her misfortune didn't end there. Her covert actions involving leaked company information were exposed. She was interrogated by the police. Her face was pale, and her hands trembled as the officer spoke. Megan, you're under arrest on charges of industrial espionage. Wait. Please, But there was no escaping it now. The trial resulted in a prison sentence for her. Sitting in the courtroom, she saw former colleagues and subordinates in the gallery. The sight filled her with intense regret. Life in prison was pure torment for her. Strict rules, minimal freedom, and, most painfully, days spent facing the enormity of her own mistakes. After her release, she struggled to find work. No one was willing to hire her. Megan, to be honest, your background makes this difficult. That's not fair. I have a stellar education and extensive experience. None of that matters in the face of your betrayal of trust. Standing on the street, she was unrecognizable. The once luxurious suits had been replaced by cheap clothing, and her once confident demeanor had been replaced with a defeated expression. One day, by chance, she ran into me. Oscar. Megan, it looks like you're having a hard time. Her voice trembled as she apologized. I'm so sorry. I was wrong about everything. I looked at her calmly and said, Megan, everyone deserves a chance to reform. If you're truly remorseful, why not start over from scratch? Tears welled up in Megan's eyes. Really, even someone like me? Yes. But it won't be an easy path. She bowed deeply. I understand. I'll endure whatever hardships come my way. This time, I want to grow in the truest sense. With that, she began working again, this time at a future tech subsidiary I introduced her to. Her role was now as a frontline worker, starting from the bottom. I'll relearn everything from the basics and aim to develop genuine leadership skills. The arrogance that once defined her had disappeared, replaced by a sincere determination in her eyes. This marked the beginning of a new chapter in her life. 5 years had passed since I became president of our company, and I was now 50 years old. The company continued to thrive, with the Future Navi series maintaining its position as the industry leader. But my challenges were far from over. One day, I gathered all employees to make a significant announcement. Everyone, today I have important news. Our company is embarking on a new challenge. The employees' eyes lit up. Until now, we've used IT to transform society. But from now on, we'll take it a step further and fully enter the field of education. A buzz ran through the crowd. Using the AI learning support system developed by the Future Creation Division, we'll partner with schools and tutoring centers across the country to build a platform where everyone can access quality education equally. Excited murmurs spread among the employees. And I've selected Kevin, who has achieved remarkable results in the Future Creation Division, to lead this project. Kevin stood up, his face filled with surprise. He joined us after dropping out of college, and he's been an invaluable asset to the Future Creation Division. Mr. Kingston, I'm honored to be entrusted with such a responsibility. Your experience and creativity are exactly what this project needs. I'm counting on you. As applause filled the room, I smiled quietly. The next day, I visited the Future Creation Division's office. There, employees from diverse backgrounds and experiences worked energetically. Everyone, thank you for your hard work. Because of you, the company is moving toward a brighter future. Michael, one of the younger employees, stepped forward. Mr. Kingston, we're the ones who should be thanking you for giving us this opportunity. No, it's because you all believed in your potential and worked hard that we've come this far. A warm atmosphere filled the room. That weekend, I visited my mother. Oscar, I hear you're starting something new again. Yes, the challenges never end. Your father and grandfather are watching over you. I'm sure it'll succeed. I hope so. A proud light shone in her eyes. The following Monday, I attended the kickoff meeting for the new project. In the conference room, representatives from schools and tutoring centers joined Future Tech employees. Everyone, today marks the start of a new challenge. It's a challenge to change the world through the power of education. The eyes of everyone present sparkled with anticipation and determination. There will be difficulties, but we have the strength to overcome them because we believe in the potential of each individual. Thunderous applause filled the room. That evening, I stood on the company rooftop. The wind brushed against my face, as if my father and grandfather were encouraging me. I took a deep breath and looked up at the sky. The future of our company remains bright. Our journey of challenges will never end. With a new dream in sight, I took another step forward. And so, this story continues into a new chapter. Salary thieves who play on their computers will be fired. Charles, my elite boss, declared my dismissal, even though I'm the only engineer in the company. Apparently, he has harbored resentment toward me for always staring at my computer screen. However, I had already been considering leaving this company with such an awful boss, so I decided to grant his wish. Understood. I'll pack my things and leave the company. I gathered my belongings and left the company. But little did Charles know, a disastrous event was about to unfold for him. My name is Kevin, and I'm 30 years old. Currently, I'm the only engineer in the company. As a result, I spend most of my time looking at computer screens, but there was one person who didn't take it well. That was Charles, my boss, and the department manager. Kevin, stop messing around with your computer and serve everyone some coffee or tea. You're so inconsiderate. He barked orders at me, his temper flaring as usual. I had grown accustomed to such treatment. Understood. I'll bring some coffee or tea right away. With a sigh, I tore my eyes away from the monitor and headed to the break room. My colleagues remained absorbed in their work, oblivious to our exchange. Meanwhile, Charles smirked, clearly amused by my lack of resistance. Ignoring him, I left the office. In the break room, while preparing tea and coffee, I found myself lost in thought. I loved my job, but the lack of recognition made it hard to stay motivated. I'd considered quitting once before. But in our small company, my departure as the only engineer would cause a massive surge of bugs and chaos. If only there were someone to replace me, I'd leave this company in a heartbeat. Charles was the only one targeting me, so I stayed out of concern for my colleagues. I sighed deeply, frustrated with my inability to take action. By the time I noticed, the tea and coffee were ready. Carrying the tray back to the office, I felt a heavy weight in my steps. Although I was sick and tired of the sarcasm from Charles, but I could not bring myself to complain about him to the higher-ups. There is a clear distinction between Charles, the elite senior manager, and me, just an ordinary engineer. It is obvious at a glance without needing any further thought. Who would listen to someone like me? Feeling defeated, I let out another deep sigh. But one day, my life would take an unexpected turn. It happened the next day on the way home from work. Since I had neither a wife to cook for me nor even a girlfriend, I grabbed dinner from the convenience store, as usual. Hey, are you Kevin? Long time no see. Ah. A familiar voice called out to me while I was leaving the store to go home. When I turned around, there was Mark, a classmate I was close with in high school. Mark? Wow, it's really been a long time. How have you been? Yeah, it has. You look like you're doing well too. I never thought I'd run into you here. Mark approached me, clearly happy about our unexpected reunion. Since it had been years since we last saw each other, I was just as delighted. If I remembered correctly, Mark had transferred to a branch office in another state about 5 years ago. I'm the one who's surprised. Didn't you transfer to a branch office out of state? I did, but I just got transferred back to the headquarters recently. What about you? Still at the same job? Yeah, I've been working as an engineer there all this time. As I said this, the thought of Charles crossed my mind, and I instinctively averted my gaze. I wasn't sure what Mark made of my reaction, but he quickly changed the subject. Hey, How about we catch up properly over dinner tomorrow evening? It's been ages since we've had a drink together. He mimed holding a beer mug, flashing me a big grin, making it impossible to say no. Of course, I replied eagerly. Our offices were next to each other, so we agreed to meet after work in front of the buildings. You better show up. I'll be waiting. Mark, having secured an appointment, waved at me before leaving the scene. His sociable personality, unchanged since our high school days, still seems to shine. Seeing the familiar Mark brought back nostalgic memories, and I couldn't help but smile. Waving back at him, I also set off on my way home. Hey, Kevin. What do you mean by leaving on time without doing any overtime? The next evening, just as I was wrapping up work for the day, Charles called out to me with a scowl. I turned around, only to see him glaring daggers at me. It was clear he wasn't happy that I was leaving on time. Normally, he would complain about how useless I was and tell me to leave early, so why was he stopping me today? Maybe it was because I kept glancing at the clock. It's too late to regret that now. I needed an excuse to get out of this situation quickly. I've finished all my tasks for the day. Then help me or someone else with their work. Don't think you can leave on time just because you've been lazing around on your computer all day. Sensing he was about to force overtime on me, I mustered up my courage and said, I actually have plans tonight, so I'll be leaving now. What? Hey, wait a minute. Ignoring Charles's protests, I dashed out of the office. I had made sure to finish all my tasks to avoid any chance of being tied down by overtime, especially because of my plans with Mark. Even so, having to work overtime feels utterly unfair. I can't help but feel exasperated by Charles, who relentlessly piles on the overtime work without a second thought. When I stepped outside the company and looked back, there was no sign of Charles following me. I'd deal with the fallout tomorrow if I had to. For now, it couldn't be helped. Kevin. You made it. I'm so glad. Mark greeted me enthusiastically as we finally met up. We decided to head to a nearby pub for dinner. I couldn't remember the last time I'd gone to a pub with anyone, let alone enjoyed the company of a friend. So, let me cut to the chase. Did something happen at work? After about an hour of chatting and eating, Mark suddenly asked the question out of the blue. Mark continues his words, cutting in further as I stare at him in wide-eyed surprise. You seemed fine, but when you showed up earlier, you were out of breath like you'd been running. That's not like you. So I figured something might have happened. The concern in his eyes made my chest ache. I hadn't said anything, yet he'd noticed something was off. I felt guilty for worrying him. It's nothing major, really. After hesitating for a moment and lowering my gaze, I decided to confide in Mark. I told him about my strained relationship with my boss, Charles, and how I didn't feel fulfilled in my current job. Mark listened to me attentively, showing genuine concern. I see. In that case, here's an idea. Why don't you come work at my company? Huh? At your company? After hearing everything, Mark made such a surprising proposal. I was shocked, as I never imagined receiving a recruitment offer from our rival company next door. We're short-staffed too, honestly, but with your skills as an engineer, I think you'd be a great addition. I'll talk to my boss about it. So please think it over. At the very least, I'll make sure you're offered better terms than your current situation. Mark added that he wouldn't pressure me for an immediate answer. Our dinner ended after that. We had already exchanged contact information, and he asked me to let him know once I made a decision. Even as I headed home, I was in a daze, knowing I might never encounter another opportunity as good as this. Still, what weighed on my mind was the state of the company I'd leave behind. The workload from endless bugs would fall entirely on me, as no one else in my company was capable of handling them. With that in mind, I couldn't decide right away. But the moment of reckoning came sooner than I expected. The next morning, when I arrived at work, I saw Charles standing near the office door with a scowl, arms crossed. My heart sank. As soon as he spotted me, he stormed over with a face like demon. Kevin, you had the nerve to defy a direct order from your manager yesterday. But I had plans yesterday. There was nothing I could do. I can stay late today if needed. Though overtime wasn't mandatory, Charles probably saw me staring at my computer screen all day as laziness, which clearly irritated him. Caught off guard by Charles's authoritative manner, I responded cautiously. But Charles smirked, as if he'd been waiting for that very reply. Don't bother staying late anymore. A slacker like you glued to a computer screen all day is fired. What? The sudden announcement of my firing made me raise my voice in disbelief. That couldn't be right. I began to wonder if Charles even had the authority to fire me. Fired, huh? The other staff arriving at the office overheard the exchange and turned their attention to us, whispering among themselves. Rather than intervening, they seemed too intimidated by Charles's authority to say a word. No one stood up for me or tried to stop him. Was this justifiable? Had I been dismissed for simply working at my desk all day? I couldn't help but think so, although I was only interpreting it on my own. I finally decided that I'm not going to argue with him, and that I was going to quit anyway. Understood. I'll pack my things and leave. Good. That'll be a big help. Honestly, it was so frustrating having someone like you around, just staring at a computer screen all day. With a mocking laugh, Charles added insult to injury, leaving me no choice but to bow my head and head back to my desk to gather my things. Whatever happens after this, it's not my problem anymore. Charles, satisfied with himself, watched me pack up, his smirk intact. I'm sure that after I leave the company, Charles will report to the president, Mr. Underwood, with various excuses about my resignation. Even then, the reason why I had to keep staring at my computer during work hours will eventually become clear. After finishing, I walked out of the office without a word. I glanced back briefly after leaving the building, but as expected, no one followed me. If anything, it felt like a weight had been lifted from my shoulders as I walked away without hesitation. Then, my eyes drifted toward the rival company next door, and I froze. In my confrontation with Charles, I'd completely forgotten about Mark's offer. I pulled out my phone from my suit pocket and opened Mark's contact info. He had said I could call anytime, but would now be okay? After a moment's hesitation, I made up my mind and dialed Mark's number. Mr. Underwood, I'd like to discuss something with you. Meanwhile, Charles was visiting the president's office to report my dismissal. What is it? Let's hear it. Well, Kevin, who was part of my team, submitted his resignation today. I've come to deliver his resignation letter on his behalf. Charles, with a triumphant look, handed my resignation letter to Mr. Underwood. However, the letter wasn't written by me, and it was a forgery Charles had penned himself. While he could declare my dismissal all he wanted, he lacked the authority to officially terminate me. So, he decided to exploit my absence, framing the situation as if I had voluntarily resigned. Of course, Charles was confident that the disappearance of a single employee wouldn't be enough to change Mr. Underwood's mind. But Kevin resigned? That's absurd. Surely you tried to stop him, didn't you, Charles? What? Charles was stunned as he watched Mr. Underwood's face turn pale the moment he learned about my resignation. He hadn't expected such a reaction and fumbled for an excuse. Of course I did. I tried my best to convince him, but his decision was firm, and I couldn't change his mind. Mr. Underwood, showing no suspicion toward Charles's act of feigned regret, immediately took out his phone to call me. Seeing this, Charles began to sweat nervously, realizing his lie might be exposed. Please don't answer his call, he silently pleaded. No answer. Charles, why don't you try calling him as well? Charles felt a brief sense of relief when I didn't answer the call, but it was short-lived as Mr. Underwood urged him to try contacting me as well. Feeling displeased and irritated by the suggestion, Charles couldn't hide his frustration. Mr. Underwood, why are you so determined to stop him? Honestly, our company will be fine without him. You wouldn't understand, but Kevin has been protecting our systems from bugs. You shouldn't say things so carelessly. Charles's face flushed bright red after being called out by Mr. Underwood. It seems he utterly despises me, even in my absence, for causing him such embarrassment. While Mr. Underwood hurriedly dialed my number again, Charles ground his teeth in frustration. He appeared humiliated, realizing that I was more valued than him, despite his position as a senior manager. Mr. Underwood, there's an emergency. Please come quickly. At that moment, a female colleague appeared suddenly, looking unusually flustered. Sensing something was wrong, Mr. Underwood hurried to the location she was leading him to. Charles quickly followed, only to find that the female colleague was leading them to his department. Several of our computers have started experiencing bugs, and we can't resolve them. About 100 bugs had cropped up across staff systems, leaving everyone in a state of panic. Some staff couldn't send critical data to clients, while others found their systems completely frozen. We can't get anything done like this, Mr. Underwood. If we don't send this data by the end of the day, we'll be in serious trouble. Staff turned to Mr. Underwood one after another, desperate for help. Seeing the chaos, Mr. Underwood could only hold his head in his hands. Charles, witnessing the disaster he had caused, finally realized the gravity of his actions. His face turned as pale as a sheet. What? How did it come to this? As Mr. Underwood buried his head in frustration, Charles frantically tried calling me again, but I still didn't answer. By then, I was already in contact with Mark at the rival company, and I had no intention of returning the call. Charles began to grow suspicious, realizing I might be ignoring him on purpose. His frustration boiled over. He's deliberately ignoring my calls. A colleague, watching Charles yelling into his phone, couldn't help but speak up. Well, of course. You told him he was fired earlier, didn't you? What did you just say? Mr. Underwood whipped around to face the employee, his expression filled with disbelief. Charles, panicking, shook his head vigorously. No. I don't remember saying that. Don't bother lying, Charles. I wasn't the only one who saw it. Everyone here heard your conversation with Kevin. Hearing those words, Charles glanced around the department and noticed the harsh stares from the employees. It seemed they realized that the series of bugs that started appearing after I left the company were likely due to their decision to drive me out. Things were getting worse for Charles, and his panic was palpable when Mr. Underwood confronted him. What's the meaning of this, Charles? You just told me earlier that Kevin voluntarily submitted his resignation, didn't you? There's a deeper reason for that. As Charles began making excuses, Mr. Underwood finally lost his temper. How dare you act without my authorization? Go and bring Kevin back immediately. Yes, sir. Under the scathing reprimand, Charles bolted out of the office. When his calls went unanswered, Charles decided to head to my house to persuade me in person, but I was one step ahead of him. Bet Charles is banging on your door right about now. The one who said that was Mark, who had just joined me after receiving my call earlier. We were at Mark's house. After being fired by Charles, I had contacted Mark, who was off work, and he had invited me over. Honestly, just imagining that is pretty funny. I couldn't help but laugh at his comment because it probably wasn't far from the truth. Judging by the incessant calls from both Mr. Underwood and Charles on my phone, it was easy to imagine the scene. I explained the situation to Mark, and he allowed me to stay at his place tonight. This was to ensure that neither Mr. Underwood nor Charles would find out where I was. My boss was thrilled to hear about you. He's arranged for an interview tomorrow. Really? That's incredible. I can't thank you enough for all you've done. Having decided to accept Mark's previous recruitment offer, I had asked to interview with his company. Mark, understanding the circumstances, immediately contacted his boss, who quickly approved the plan. I didn't think they'd make a decision so quickly, but we're all overjoyed to have you join us. Stay here as long as you like, not just tonight. Thanks, Mark. I mean it. You've done so much for me. We laughed together as we said that. The moment felt just like our high school days, unchanged by time. I couldn't help but feel, from the bottom of my heart, that friends are truly invaluable. Apparently, Mark's company already had 2 engineers like me. With me as the third, it would ease the workload and allow everyone to take more breaks. No wonder they wanted to finalize my hire quickly. For me, the thought of having colleagues who understood my work was a huge relief. I had always been the only engineer, with no one to share the load or understand my challenges. To top it off, I don't want to be told again that I'm a salary thief playing on a computer. After the interview, I was officially hired by the rival company and began working alongside the other engineers. The new job was nothing like my previous one. My skills were respected, my salary was higher, and I was finally satisfied. Although Mark was in a different department, my days were far more fulfilling. I doubted Charles or anyone from my old company could imagine I was now working right next door. Rumors reached me that their systems were plagued with bugs, rendering the computers unusable. They couldn't recover their data, missed deadlines, and suffered contract cancellations one after another. Eventually, the staff began submitting mass resignations. As for Charles, he apparently showed up at my house, but since I wasn't home, he couldn't find me. Frustrated, he returned to the office, where he faced even more scolding from Mr. Underwood. Later, it was revealed that Charles had forged my resignation letter, leading to his immediate dismissal. He probably never imagined he'd be the one getting fired. Stripped of his pride, Charles left the company in disgrace. Being the only failure in a family of elites, Charles faced relentless criticism from his relatives and was ultimately disowned. Shunned by the industry, he scraped by with part-time jobs, trying to survive. Meanwhile, the company itself couldn't recover. Without enough staff or a way to resolve the bugs, it went bankrupt. 1 month later, at my new workplace, I was finally finding a renewed sense of purpose in life. The mistreatment I had endured at my old job now felt like a distant memory. "You're so much brighter now than when we reconnected, Kevin," Mark said that with a warm smile as he looked at me recently. I hadn't noticed the change myself, but he was probably right. Now, I get to do the work I love every day alongside my colleagues. All of this is thanks to Mark for inviting me to join his company. If I hadn't reconnected with you, Mark, I doubt I'd be where I am today. Thank you again. With gratitude in my heart, I resolved to keep pushing forward in my work. If dedicating myself to my job could be my way of repaying Mark, then I vowed to continue doing so with all my strength. This is the reality. No matter how many qualifications you have, thinking you can handle this company's work is naive. It's only natural for you to quit. The mocking voice of my manager, Henry, echoed through the meeting room. That voice felt like it shattered all my efforts in an instant. After graduating high school and joining this company, I had worked tirelessly, earning multiple certifications with pride in my heart. Yet, all it took was one failed presentation to stir up unexpected suspicion. A $30 million deal fell apart, and I was solely blamed for it. The situation reeked of conspiracy, yet I had no evidence, no excuse, nothing to defend myself. All right, I now officially announce Terrence's dismissal. With Henry's laughter resonating behind me, I could only sigh heavily. Was this how everything would end for me? But life has a way of taking unexpected turns. That very day, while working part-time at a cafe, a college student appeared before me. "I've been looking for you. I'll pay you 10 times your salary, please teach me." Her eyes reflected pure determination and hope. This encounter would go on to change my life profoundly. And a few years later, the curtain was about to rise on an unforeseen comeback in my life. My name is Terrence. I was only 3 years old when my mother and I became a single-parent family. After my father's business failed and he fled overnight, all that remained for us was an enormous debt from consumer loans. Since then, my mother had worked tirelessly, juggling night shifts at a care facility, cashiering at a supermarket, and cleaning apartments to raise me. There was a turning point that changed my life. It happened when I was in the 4th grade of elementary school. At my mother's suggestion, I started attending an abacus class held at the local community center. At first, I hated it, but something about the rhythmic clacking of beads as I worked with numbers became oddly satisfying, and before I knew it, I was hooked. Mom, I passed the level 3 abacus exam. I showed my certificate to my exhausted mother as she came home. Wow! That's amazing! Her tired face lit up instantly. My son is such a hard worker. Her joy in that moment left a deep impression on me. I want to make Mom even happier. Next, I challenged the Chinese characters proficiency exam and passed a level above my grade. Then, I took on the English proficiency test as well. Each time I earned a certification, my mother was overjoyed. Seeing her happiness became my greatest joy, and I gradually became deeply absorbed in earning more qualifications. By the time I entered middle school and then high school, that passion never waned. I researched certifications a high school student could take and began studying for them one by one: Chinese characters, English, math proficiency tests, bookkeeping. I worked part-time jobs to afford exam fees so as not to burden my mother, who worried about the cost of textbooks. By the time I was a high school sophomore, I had earned more than 10 certifications. English Proficiency Level 2, Kanji Level 2, Math Proficiency Level 2, Bookkeeping Level 2, Basic IT Skills, Real Estate License. I earned all of them through self-study. I bought second-hand textbooks, studied at the library, used online practice questions, and even sacrificed time with friends to dedicate myself entirely to preparing for certification exams. You don't have to push yourself so hard. My mother worried that I wasn't enjoying a normal high school life, but to me, earning qualifications felt like unlocking new doors to the world. Delving into new knowledge was endlessly exciting. And above all, seeing my mother's joy kept me motivated. She always celebrated my achievements in small but heartfelt ways. "Terrence, you passed the financial planner exam this time?" Even after a long day of work, she'd light up, arranging pudding and cake from the convenience store on the table. "You didn't have to spend money on this. It's fine, it's fine. Sometimes you need a sweet treat to recharge and keep going, right?" Even though she must have been exhausted from her night shift, my mother sat beside me, eagerly listening to me talk about the exam. Was it hard? What kind of questions did they ask? Well, there were questions about pension calculations and reviewing life insurance policies. "Oh, by the way, Mom, your current life insurance premium is actually too high. There's a cheaper plan with the same coverage. I think we can save about $50 a month starting next month." Wow, you've even been studying things like that? I'm always worried about you working so many night shifts. I wanted to find a way to make things a little easier for you. With teary eyes, my mother gently patted my head. The fact that she always made time for me, smiled despite her exhaustion, and supported me in her own way, those moments made me incredibly happy. They also became the driving force for me to tackle the next qualification. In society, being labeled as just a high school graduate or from a single-parent family carries a stigma. But earning certifications gave me a tangible way to prove my worth, and perhaps it was my way of fighting against the struggles of poverty. Of course, I had already given up on going to college by my first year of high school. However, during a parent-teacher meeting, Mr. Hughes, my advisor, cautiously offered some encouragement. "With grades like yours, Terrence, you could aim for a recommendation if you wanted." My mother turned to me silently, waiting for my response. Though she didn't say it aloud, her eyes conveyed the unspoken message, "I'm sorry." It was difficult to come up with the money for higher education. Scholarships were an option, but I couldn't imagine being able to repay the loans. Mr. Hughes, I'm going to find a job instead. The sad look in Mr. Hughes's eyes and the apologetic expression on my mother's face are still etched in my memory. As if to push away those feelings from everyone around me, I threw myself even deeper into studying for certifications. I first noticed changes in my mother's health during the fall of my second year of high school. "I'm just a little tired," she said with a smile, but her complexion grew worse with each passing day, and I couldn't help but worry. My fears were confirmed when she collapsed at work and was hospitalized. "Terrence, you don't have to push yourself so hard. I'm fine. I can't go to college anyway, so this is just my way of making up for it," I replied with a smile, but in truth, I was using studying as a way to avoid facing reality. Every day, after finishing my part-time job, I would rush to the hospital, spending time by her side and studying from my textbooks until visiting hours were over. As I flipped through my workbooks and glanced at her sleeping face, I noticed how much smaller she had become, her cheeks sunken. The doctor's serious expression, the mounting treatment costs, and my mother's increasingly frail body haunted me. When the cherry blossoms began to fall, my mother quietly passed away, as though slipping into a peaceful sleep. Finding a job wasn't easy, but with the support of my school, I practiced interviews, learned business etiquette, and prepared after class. Some companies were willing to interview me after seeing the long list of certifications on my resume. One of those companies was Yates Industries, which specialized in manufacturing and maintaining aircraft parts. During the interview, Mr. Yates, the company president, read through the list of certifications on my resume, calling out each one with a look of astonishment. "Terrence, you've earned some impressive qualifications for someone your age. Did you study for all of these on your own?" In the interview, he started with that question. "Yes, I did. My family wasn't very well off, so..." I candidly explained how I started studying for certifications, my family's financial struggles, and my decision to forego college. Mr. Yates murmured, crossing his arms as he appeared deep in thought. After a moment, he slowly began to speak. "Terrence, you already have a strong foundation of theoretical knowledge. If you can learn to apply that knowledge in practice, there's nothing more powerful." Mr. Yates's words carried a strange yet undeniable weight. Theory and practice are like two wheels of a cart. With both in harmony, you'll grow immensely. Why not test your abilities at our company? His gaze was sincere. Academic background doesn't matter. What's important is the knowledge you have and your drive to improve. And you have both, Terrence. Mr. Yates. You're a kind person who deeply cares for your mother. That's the kind of person I've been looking for. Thank you so much." I bowed deeply, struggling to hold back the tears welling up in my eyes. And so, I graduated high school and joined Yates Industries. I was assigned to the sales department, where I struggled with unfamiliar tasks and specialized terminology, but every day felt fulfilling. Most of the other employees were college graduates, but they never cared about my educational background and treated me with the warmth of a parent toward their child. "How's it going? Are you getting used to the work?" One day, Mr. Yates stopped by the sales department on business and struck up a conversation. Overcome with gratitude, I replied enthusiastically, "Yes. There are still some parts I'm struggling with, but everyone here is so kind, and I enjoy coming to work every day." "That's great to hear," he said, stroking his thick mustache thoughtfully. "For someone your age to have so many certifications is a real asset to our company. We're small, but we've got a lot of talented people. Learn from them and gain as much experience as you can." I nodded firmly, and Mr. Yates smiled, narrowing his eyes in approval. From that point on, I poured all my energy into applying the knowledge I had gained from my certifications in practical settings. During negotiations with clients, I became adept at answering technical questions accurately, leading to more frequent comments like, "Terrence from Yates Industries is truly well informed. When I submitted a proposal for improving quality control, Mr. Yates personally reached out to me. "Terrence, I reviewed your proposal. It looks like this could cut unnecessary costs by as much as 30%. Yes, I actually applied some methods I learned while earning my equipment management certification. A proposal backed by solid theory is always convincing. Let's implement it right away." Even the workers on site began expressing their gratitude, saying things like, "Following Terrence's suggestions improved our efficiency." And I never realized such a simple method could make such a difference. Young employees began seeking my advice on technical matters, and even senior staff occasionally asked for my input. Then, about 6 months after I joined the company, something significant happened. "Hey, Terrence." I heard someone call me in the hallway of the sales department. When I turned around, it was Henry, the department manager. Henry was a veteran who had been with the company since its founding. Known for his strong connections with clients, he held immense influence within the company. His opinions carried significant weight even in decisions about hiring and promotions made by the HR department. "Come to the conference room," he said, settling deeply into an expensive leather chair and fixing me with a cold stare. "Your comment in the meeting earlier was unnecessary," he said, referring to the morning sales planning meeting. Regarding the new deal with the major manufacturer, Henry was pushing for aggressive deadlines and pricing. However, having listened to the voices from the field, I couldn't help but point out that such a schedule could potentially compromise quality. I spoke with the quality control team, and we agreed that allowing a bit more time would. "What gives you the right to make such claims?" Henry smirked mockingly. "I hold a certification in equipment management, and based on that knowledge, this schedule would require equipment to operate beyond its safe capacity, which poses safety risks." "Ha! There you go again with your certifications. Stop waving around your theoretical nonsense. It's not theoretical. I confirmed this with the field team." "Enough." Henry slammed the desk, his voice reverberating through the conference room. "Don't talk to me like some know-it-all inspector from who knows where. You have no real understanding of the field, yet you spew these lofty ideas. I've spent 20 years building this line." The sound of his fist hitting the desk echoed loudly. "Just because you're one of Mr. Yates's favorites, don't let it go to your head. This company has its own way of doing things. As a newcomer, you have no right to speak out like that." With that, Henry stormed out of the room. Henry was one of the founding members of Yates Industries, and in the early days, he and Mr. Yates reportedly shared a close relationship. However, as Mr. Yates prioritized merit-based practices, Henry, a staunch believer in seniority-based systems, grew resentful of the new approach. This friction deepened, especially with Mr. Yates's openness to young employees' opinions, eventually creating an unspoken divide within the company, the Yates camp and the Henry camp. In fact, it was chilling to hear that Henry had been boasting to the subordinates he recruited into his faction, saying, "One day, I'll be the president of this company." It was likely that I became the target of attacks because Mr. Yates's praise for me didn't sit well with Henry. The people around me, afraid of being dragged into trouble themselves, often turned a blind eye to what was happening. All my proposals were rejected, important documents mysteriously went missing, and emails to clients were misdirected, leading to complaints on more than one occasion. Meeting minutes were altered, and there was even an incident where confidential client documents were somehow accessed under my name, though I had nothing to do with it. Sorry. No hard feelings. But don't you think it's more of a problem when a young upstart like you oversteps? You need to respect the order of society, you know. Order is everything. I had countless words I wanted to say back, but none of them came out. Every day, I went to work with a stomachache, burdened by the stress of it all. It was especially crushing because I had just begun earning Mr. Yates's trust, making this unreasonable situation all the harder to endure. But I couldn't give up here. I kept telling myself that every single day as I pushed forward. Then, 3 months after the harassment began, the moment arrived. It was during a negotiation with a major airline. "Terrence, please handle the presentation," I was told. The meeting room was filled with senior executives from the client company, and the tension was palpable. This was a $30 million project to supply and maintain aircraft parts, a deal that could determine the future of our company. I nervously opened my materials and began. "Our new filter system reduces maintenance costs by 35% compared to conventional products," I explained, moving smoothly through the presentation. I addressed the client's questions with detailed explanations, incorporating my knowledge of the aviation industry. "I see. A 35% reduction is significant. Yes, here are the detailed analysis results." I smoothly explained the details while pointing to the figures displayed on the projector. "I actually visited your factory 3 times last month and had detailed discussions with your staff on site." "With our staff?" The head of the maintenance department leaned forward in interest. "Yes, your factory manager mentioned that the time required for filter replacements was causing delays in other inspections. I thought our product might help address that issue." You considered that much?" I realized this might seem presumptuous, but I felt it was time for a decision to be made. The room fell silent as I continued. "Our new filter reduces replacement time to 1/3 of the conventional product, significantly improving efficiency." A video demonstration played on the projector showing the process. "I see. This is certainly compelling," the maintenance head said, his expression softening. "Terrence, right? This is the first proposal we've received that delves so deeply into our field operations. If I may." "Excuse me for interrupting." Henry suddenly stood up and began distributing new documents. "I have an important announcement. There is a critical error in the product data Terrence presented." The room buzzed with murmurs. "What's this about?" I had triple-checked the data, and even my supervisor had verified there were no issues. However, the graphs Henry presented showed data indicating clear defects. Efficiency figures had been altered, and the safety tests allegedly revealed dangerous results. This data came to light during an internal investigation. Ideally, we would have identified these issues before presenting to you, but Henry, I never. I tried desperately to defend myself, but Henry piled on. Additionally, there are doubts surrounding the certification Terrence presented to the client. What? Explain this right now. Voices clamored angrily in the meeting room, which descended into chaos. As a result, the multi-million-dollar deal fell through, and our relationship with the client deteriorated severely. Naturally, the company's reputation took a significant hit, and I was held responsible for the damage, ultimately receiving a recommendation to resign. This is the reality. No matter how many qualifications you have, with only a high school diploma, thinking you can handle this company's work is naive. It's only natural for you to leave. Pack your things and get out before Mr. Yates returns from his business trip. Henry delivered his harsh words with a triumphant smile, showing no mercy. With no way to reveal the truth, I could only endure the cold stares from my colleagues, sighing heavily. By the time Mr. Yates returned from his business trip, everything was already over. Henry twisted the truth, reporting that Terrence admitted to misconduct and voluntarily chose to resign. Without even a chance to reveal the truth, I was forced to leave the company. As much as I felt anger at the absurdity of it all, a strange sense of calm settled over me. I can't let this defeat me, not for Mom's sake. However, we regret to inform you that we have decided not to move forward with your application. We appreciate your interest, but faced with yet another rejection letter from a company I thought for sure would hire me this time, I let out what must have been my 100th heavy sigh. 2 months into my job search, this marked the 12th company to reject my application. As much as I tried not to think about it, I couldn't help but notice how the interviewer's expressions seemed to darken the moment they saw my highest level of education listed as high school. No matter how many certifications I had, I couldn't compete with a college degree. It was a truth I now painfully understood. To be honest, our company policy makes it difficult to hire someone as a full-time employee without a college degree, the HR representative had said, and the weight of those words bore down on me as I walked home in defeat. I knew securing a full-time position would be ideal, but at this rate, I felt like I might never find work. With no other options, I reluctantly decided to take on part-time jobs while continuing my job search. "Excuse me, are you still hiring for part-time staff?" I had stopped in front of a trendy cafe with a stylish exterior and spotted a flyer advertising job openings. Without thinking, I walked in and spoke to someone who appeared to be the manager. Since I always carried my resume with me, I explained my situation. The manager kindly conducted an impromptu interview and hired me on the spot, asking me to start the next day. Donning a chic beige apron and a matching cap that didn't suit me in the slightest, I began my first day as a cafe employee. The work, especially dealing with customers, was challenging, but unlike my previous job, the manager and my coworkers were kind. For the first time in a while, I began to enjoy working again. "Welcome." As usual, I greeted the next customer with a bow as they walked through the door. "Ha! Could it be Terrence?" I looked up at the familiar voice and saw someone I recognized instantly. "Melanie? That's right. I'm so glad you remember me." The woman, smiling warmly, was Melanie, someone I had first met 3 years ago during the CPA exam. It was the day of the taxation law exam, specifically for consumption tax. The tense atmosphere in the exam hall was palpable, and she, seated next to me, had dropped her eraser, which I picked up for her. That was how we first spoke. Before the exam started, Melanie was visibly nervous, her hands trembling so much that she could barely hold her exam ticket properly. I instinctively asked, "Are you okay?" She gave an apologetic smile and replied, "Thank you. It's my first tax accountant exam, and I'm so nervous." "I'm nervous too, but I'm sure everyone feels the same. Let's do our best together." When I said that, she looked visibly relieved. Since then, we kept running into each other at the same exam venues for certifications like the FP Skills Test and the IT Specialist exam. By chance, we were often seated near each other, and over time, we became a source of mutual encouragement. After every exam, we would almost always end up at a nearby cafe, discussing study methods or debating particularly tough questions. She had told me she was studying business administration at university while also working hard to earn certifications. Now, seeing me in my cafe uniform felt a little embarrassing, but her warm smile was just as it had been back then. It felt as though the days we supported each other at the exam halls had only been yesterday. Melanie, now a college student, was in the midst of her job search. In her sleek recruit suit, she exuded an even greater sense of grace than before. Dressed in a classic black jacket and skirt with a white blouse, her poised demeanor carried an undeniable elegance that turned heads. "Terrence, I can't believe I'd run into you here. Why are you working part-time? Someone with your certifications." Her eyes reflected genuine curiosity. Caught off guard by her question, I struggled to find the words. How could I explain that I was framed by my manager and forced out of my job? I couldn't bring myself to share such a pathetic truth. "Well, you see, it's just that." "Excuse me." A call came from a table in the back, breaking the tension. I gave a quick nod to Melanie, relieved by the interruption. "Please excuse me." For the rest of her visit, I focused on my work, making a point not to look in her direction. Her questioning gaze felt like it was piercing into my back. But right now, I didn't even feel worthy of speaking to her as an equal. Once, we had encouraged and pushed each other to improve. But now, rather than revealing the miserable truth about my life, I preferred to keep interacting with her as just a cafe worker. I didn't want to expose any more of my downfall in front of Melanie. See you tomorrow, I said, as I finished my shift and prepared to leave through the back room. Terrence. Whoa. Melanie, I exclaimed, startled to find her waiting for me. I'm sorry, but I have a favor to ask. She hesitated slightly, then spoke with a cautious tone. You have a small and medium enterprise consultant certification, don't you? Yes. I do, but... Melanie's face lit up instantly, her expression blooming like a flower. I knew it. I'd been curious for a long time. I always saw you at those difficult exam venues, and you passed them all on the first try, right? Her voice carried an unexpected fervor as she said something that took me by surprise. Terrence, this is a huge favor. Could you tutor me? What? I instinctively glanced around, unsure of how to respond. I don't think I'm qualified to teach anyone. Please. Melanie leaned in, her voice firm with determination. I've failed the CPA exam 3 times. I'm completely lost and don't know what to do anymore. Her eyes were filled with such earnestness that I couldn't bring myself to refuse. My university studies aren't enough. The SME consultant exam overlaps a lot with the CPA exam in areas like financial analysis and corporate management, right? On top of that, it requires practical analytical skills. Someone like you, who has both perspectives, could really help me. Of course. I won't ask you to do it for free. What? Twice a week, 2 hours each session, at a cafe near here. I'll pay you 10 times your current hourly wage. Her detailed proposal and unwavering passion left me no choice but to nod in agreement. All right. But I can't accept payment from a student. Let's just settle for you covering the cost of my drinks during our sessions. Melanie smiled wryly but nodded in acceptance. We agreed to meet at a nearby cafe next Saturday at 3 p.m. Looking forward to Saturday, she said before walking away. As I watched her confident stride, I murmured to myself, can I really teach her? But little did I know, this reunion would end up changing my life significantly. For now, the key points for understanding corporate valuation methods in this section are: seated by the window bathed in the soft spring sunlight, I continued explaining as I pointed to Melanie's textbook. When evaluating a company using the DCF method, forecasting future cash flows is crucial. This is especially important for small to medium-sized businesses, where industry trends end. I see. Until now, I've only had textbook knowledge, but your practical perspective makes it so much easier to understand. Her sincere dedication to learning naturally fueled my own motivation. Your explanations are clearer than my university professors, she said with a smile. Do you think so? I scratched my head, feeling slightly embarrassed. Oh no, it's already this late. When I glanced at the clock, it was already past 5 p.m. For next time, we'll focus on analyzing financial statements for corporate evaluation. I'll prepare some practice problems using real-world examples from publicly listed companies. Really? Are you sure it's okay for you to go that far for me? Yeah, I don't have much going on besides my part-time job. When I replied with a smile, Melanie pouted slightly and said, see? That's exactly why you're such a good person, you're way too humble. Hearing someone genuinely acknowledge me like that brought me a pure, simple happiness. Before I realized it, these tutoring sessions with Melanie had become a priceless part of my life. Melanie looked at me with genuine admiration in her eyes. Once, I had been mocked and my efforts and knowledge completely dismissed at work. But now, there was someone who truly appreciated my abilities. That simple fact slowly began to heal the deep wounds in my heart. As the sun set and the cafe was filled with the warm orange glow of dusk, we sat by the window, poring over practice problems as usual. On the table bathed in the golden light, Melanie kept flipping back and forth on the same page, unusually quiet today. She usually asked questions, but today, she remained unusually silent. Is this part difficult to understand? When I called out to her, Melanie suddenly looked up, as if snapped out of a trance. Come to think of it, Terrence, you hold an actuary certification, right? Yes. I do. I've taken that exam 3 times and failed every single one. It's such a challenging certification, with only a few hundred people in Japan holding it. You're amazing, really. She held her coffee cup gently in both hands, gazing distantly as she continued. To be honest, when I first started, I was just taking certifications because everyone around me told me to. My parents would say, if you want to get into a top-tier company, you need certifications. But deep down, I thought certifications were pointless. She smiled shyly and said, but you know, there was someone I kept seeing at the exam venues. That person was always studying so hard, solving problems even during breaks. Watching them, I thought, I don't want to lose to this person. I ended up seeing you as my rival, Terrence. Without even realizing it. She chuckled softly as she spoke. Then, strangely enough, I started enjoying it. I'd set goals like mastering this section by the next exam or fully understanding a particular problem. Before I knew it, I was studying with all my heart. Melanie paused for a moment, her expression turning serious. I was born into a pretty fortunate family. Prestigious private schools, a top-tier university. Honestly, I could get by without much effort in an environment like that. So, I never really had the experience of dedicating myself to something with everything I had. She gazed out the window, her voice soft but steady. But watching you, Terrence, I realized something. The importance of working hard, struggling, and persevering no matter what. Up until now, I was just walking along the path that was laid out for me. But I've learned that climbing up on your own strength is so much more meaningful. She turned to face me, her clear eyes meeting mine. Studying with you has been so enjoyable. Every time I gain new knowledge, it feels like my world is expanding. And now, I truly understand how invaluable the time spent giving your all can be. A faint blush spread across her cheeks as she smiled gently. That's why, thank you. Thanks to you, I feel like I've grown a little. I didn't know how to respond to her words. I could only look at Melanie, who seemed to be glowing before my eyes. I could feel that something inside her was indeed changing. A month later, our study sessions continued as usual. While waiting for her, I heard her familiar voice from above. Sorry for being late. No worries, huh? When I looked up, I saw Melanie standing slightly out of breath, accompanied by an elegant elderly woman in a refined kimono. Actually, I brought my grandmother with me today. Melanie said with a slight blush, looking a little embarrassed as she continued. I'm really close to her, and I've been telling her all about you, Terrence. She placed her hand on her grandmother's arm with a joyful smile. She said, if he's such a wonderful person, I'd love to meet him. So I had to bring her along. Her expression was proud, as if she were introducing someone very special. Nice to meet you. I'm Chloe, Melanie's grandmother. Thank you for taking care of her. Her gesture as she extended her hand carried a certain Western elegance. Bowing slightly, I introduced myself. I'm Terrence. It's a pleasure to meet you as well. Oh no, the pleasure is mine. I hope I'm not intruding on your study time. Chloe's demeanor was soft yet poised, exuding an undeniable grace. I've heard so much about you from Melanie. English, bookkeeping, even a caregiving qualification. You hold so many certifications. I'm impressed. Thank you, but I don't think I'm worthy of such praise. Before I could finish, Chloe's expression suddenly changed, her face tightening with a hint of discomfort. Her face suddenly turned pale, and she seemed on the verge of collapsing. Grandma! Melanie rushed to support her, panic evident in her voice. I'm fine, just a little tired. I pushed her too much, what should I do? Melanie's voice was trembling. Chloe, please take a seat, I said in a calm voice, discreetly helping her into a chair. From my time caring for my mother, I had developed the habit of always carrying a blood pressure monitor. I quickly retrieved it from my bag and wrapped the cuff around Chloe's wrist. Should we call an ambulance? Melanie asked anxiously, but I shook my head gently. It's okay. Let's check her vitals first. While taking her blood pressure with practiced ease, I simultaneously checked her pulse on her other wrist. The paramedic training I completed during my mother's caregiving days is coming in handy here. Her blood pressure is slightly elevated. But it's not an emergency. Thank goodness. Melanie sighed with visible relief. I have a chronic condition and was prescribed nitroglycerin by my primary doctor. I'm sorry for causing trouble like this. It's no trouble at all. Just take it easy and rest. Chloe's breathing steadied, and her complexion gradually began to improve. My apologies, truly. This was meant to be a pleasant meeting, and I ended up causing you so much concern. Please don't worry about it. I'm just glad it wasn't anything serious. Make sure to visit your doctor soon for a follow-up. Yes, I will. As she said this, Chloe gazed intently at me. Her eyes held a warmth that felt nostalgic, as if remembering something dear from long ago. I thought so. You're Sophia's son, aren't you? What? The mention of that name made my heart leap. I couldn't believe I had encountered someone who knew my mother in such an unexpected place. Yes. Sophia is my mother, I replied, my voice trembling slightly. Tears began to glisten in Chloe's eyes. She was such a wonderful person. Whenever someone wasn't feeling well, she would always rush to their side. I owe so much to Sophia, Chloe said, her expression softening with fond memories. About 5 years ago, I broke my leg and had to rely on a day service. Sophia was the one who took care of me. She continued, lifting her teacup gracefully and taking a small sip. At first, I didn't want to go to day service. It felt like I was being treated like an old woman. My grandma always feels young at heart. Melanie chimed in with a teasing smile. But Sophia was different from the other staff. She treated me like a friend, not a patient. That made me so happy, Chloe said, her eyes beginning to well up. I ended up sharing all kinds of stories with her. And she would always say, Chloe, your stories are so insightful. She listened so intently. And I felt so appreciated. I couldn't help but give her plenty of tea sweets. I hope I didn't trouble her. Ah! I couldn't stop a small gasp from escaping. The fancy Japanese sweets my mother used to bring home, those elegant green jelly confections or flower-shaped treats. Those were from you, weren't they? Yes, they were leftover sweets from my tea ceremony classes. She'd always say, my son loves these, and take them home so happily, Chloe said, her voice trembling slightly. But near the end, she wasn't feeling well, and she didn't tell anyone. My mother never wanted to burden others. One day, she just stopped coming. And the next time I asked about her, Melanie gently took Chloe's hand in hers. Sophia often talked about you, Chloe said after a brief pause, lowering her gaze as if recalling my mother's words. I have nothing to be proud of. I work night shifts and juggle part-time jobs, yet I still can't provide my child with a decent life. I feel so ashamed as a mother. Her words squeezed my chest with a sharp pain. But, Chloe continued, but if there's one thing I'm proud of, it's Terrence. My vision blurred as tears welled up. I can't give him the kind of support a mother should, but even so, he works so hard, earning certification after certification. Late into the night. He's always studying with his books open. Watching Terrence's determination makes me feel like I need to work hard too. It makes me believe we can't let poverty defeat us. He's my light. I tried to hold back the tears, but they streamed down my face uncontrollably. Mom. Until the very end, she was proud of you. She said, Terrence might have been unlucky to have a mother like me. But when I see how hard he works, I feel truly grateful for the life I was given. Melanie wiped at her eyes, clearly moved. Chloe continued speaking softly. She was such a wonderful mother. And that love and pride she had for you have clearly shaped who you are today. When I saw how you cared for me earlier, I felt deeply reassured. I'm so glad I had the chance to meet you. Chloe. I nodded slightly, wiping my eyes with a handkerchief. My mother's love and pride still lived on within me, as vividly as ever. I had never felt that truth as clearly as I did at this moment. Chloe straightened her posture and looked at me with a composed expression. Melanie mentioned you're working part-time at a cafe now. Her words made me lower my eyes in shame. What happened? With all those certifications, how did you end up here? Her voice was filled with a genuine kindness that made it impossible to feel defensive. I thought, perhaps, if there's any way I could help. No, I'm so sorry for troubling you. I stammered, bowing deeply. I felt embarrassed and unworthy, burdening someone connected to my mother. But Chloe smiled softly, her expression filled with understanding. Sophia truly helped me back then. She treated me as a person, not just an old woman. Now it's my turn to give back. Her words brought an image of my mother's gentle smile flooding into my mind. She had always practiced kindness and compassion so naturally, just as Chloe was now offering me. Will you tell me your story? Chloe's voice was as gentle as my mother's had been. 2 years later, I found myself back at my former workplace, Yates Industries. And there I stood, face to face with Henry. Long time no see, Henry. I'm here to discuss the future of Yates Industries. Ha! The nerve! I don't have time to waste on a nobody like you. He sneered, leaning back into his expensive leather chair with his feet propped up on the table. You're still just a part-timer, aren't you? What's with the suit? Trying to play dress up? He let out an exaggerated sigh, flaunting his luxury watch with a deliberate flick of his wrist. Fine, I'll humor you for a bit. What was your name again? Terrence, wasn't it? He looked down on me with the same disdain as before. When I returned to Yates Industries after so long, the atmosphere felt noticeably heavier than before. As Henry continued his tiresome self-aggrandizing talk, I found myself growing weary, all while mentally organizing what I needed to say. Since you're here, I assume you're working on something related to us? The time had come. Yes, I am currently working in this capacity. Allow me to formally introduce myself, I said calmly, pulling a business card from my suit pocket and placing it on the table. Oh, let me guess, you've managed to crawl your way into some small-time company. Well, that's about all a high school graduate like you could hope for. The conversation abruptly stopped the moment Henry picked up the business card. What? Inspire Bank. Loan Management Department. Manager. What's the meaning of this? Henry's haughty demeanor froze in place, his voice cracking in disbelief. It was understandable. Inspire Bank is one of the leading megabanks in Japan's financial sector. Its reputation and authority in lending to small and medium-sized businesses are unparalleled. The decisions made by its loan management division are said to determine the future of companies, wielding enough influence to decide the very fate of a business. The arrogance that had filled the room moments ago disappeared, replaced by the sight of sweat beading on Henry's forehead. Wait a minute. How did you end up in a position like this? There's no way someone like you could just walk into Inspire Bank. His panic was understandable. The subordinate he had relentlessly bullied now held the authority to determine the fate of his company's funding. As I watched the shock on Henry's face, my mind drifted back to 2 years ago. To that day at the cafe, when Chloe had listened to my story with her warm, thoughtful gaze. After hearing my story, Chloe had asked me a question that caught me off guard. "Terrence, didn't you mention you have an actuary certification?" "Yes, I do," I replied. "What other certifications do you have?" Securities Analyst, SME Consultant, FP Level 1, N. As I listed them, Chloe's eyes lit up. "Terrence, how would you feel about joining our bank?" "What?" "The knowledge and experience you've gained, and more importantly, your empathy for others, are exactly what we need." "I'm Chloe Anderson, the wife of the chairman of Inspire Bank. I used to handle some of the bank's most challenging loan cases." "Inspire Bank?" "Yes. I'm still deeply involved in the bank's operations." I was at a loss for words. Inspire Bank, one of Japan's premier megabanks. To think that Chloe was the chairman's wife. Her eyes held a sincere and unwavering light. "Because you earned your certifications while caring for your mother and have real-world experience. You're uniquely equipped to see the true essence of a company." Chloe's words were like a beam of light piercing through the darkness, igniting hope in my heart. Shortly after, I joined Inspire Bank with her recommendation. Though I started as a general employee, I quickly made a name for myself by leveraging my certifications and practical experience in corporate analysis and financial due diligence. From small-scale business recovery projects to major corporate restructurings, I earned a reputation for listening to stakeholders and crafting tailored solutions. Terrence's analysis isn't just theoretical. He understands the struggles of business owners and the feelings of their employees. Always rated highest by my boss. Within 2 years, I achieved rapid promotions and was now the manager of the loan management department. Entrusted with decisions that shaped the future of countless companies. I'm Terrence, manager of the loan management department at Inspire Bank. I'm here today to discuss your company's loan case and have a few questions regarding your financial practices over the past 3 years. Particularly those handled by Henry. I could see the blood drain from his face, and sweat began to trickle from his forehead down to his neck. You're holding a grudge. This is underhanded. Do you think this kind of abuse of power will be tolerated?" Spittle flew as he shouted, but I remained calm. "No, this is purely business," I replied firmly. At that moment, the conference room door swung open. "What's going on here?" "Mr. Yates." Henry's bravado crumbled as he turned to see the company president enter, clearly flustered. "I got a call from Terrence earlier. He told me there was something critical about the loan case, so I cut my business trip short to be here." "Mr. Yates, he's just bluffing. It's a waste of time to take him seriously. Terrence would never resort to something like that. He's a loan officer from Inspire Bank. Now, let's hear what he has to say." Mr. Yates replied firmly, sinking deeply into his chair. I opened my bag, calmly taking out the documents and arranging them on the table. "Could you please explain this document?" "This is..." Henry stammered, struggling to find words. "We have detailed investigation results regarding your company's fraudulent accounting practices. These are all connected to projects Henry was involved in." "Fraudulent accounting? Henry, what's the meaning of this?" Mr. Yates pressed Henry, his voice rising. "Well, the increased capital expenditures last year, payments to fictitious vendors, and particularly the doctored documents presented during the negotiation with the airline handled by Terrence, these should sound familiar to you," I said, watching as Henry gasped. "The deal with the airline wasn't sabotage just to harass me. The goal was to inflate the original contract amount from $30 million to $35 million. Allowing you to pocket the $5 million difference." Following the negotiation, $300,000 was paid to a fictitious subcontractor. TSK Engineering, under your authorization. Are you here for revenge? Revenge? No, just a coincidence. I replied calmly. The irregularities were discovered during a routine audit by the loan management department. As we examined Henry's activities, these details surfaced unexpectedly. I paused, then continued. Based on these findings, Inspire Bank has decided to terminate all loans to Yates Industries. What? Mr. Yates's face turned pale, his distress palpable. The documents you used to try to force me out have, ironically, become the basis for ending your company's financing. A curious twist of fate. Isn't it? You think this is acceptable? You're joking if you believe this will work. Henry shouted, his anger boiling over. The one who's out of line here is you, isn't it? I maintained a firm tone as I pulled out another set of documents. These are legal opinions from our attorneys, stating that your actions warrant further legal action. Mr. Yates buried his head in his hands. What an irreparable mess. Suddenly, Henry lashed out in desperation. It was all Mr. Yates's orders. The fraudulent accounting, the shady financial transactions, he's the one who instructed me. What nonsense! Mr. Yates stood abruptly, his voice filled with anger. Don't you see? Mr. Yates told me to make the numbers look good at any cost, so I simply followed his orders. Even the data I falsified for the airline deal was done to align with his directives. That's a lie. It's all Mr. Yates's doing. I was just his puppet. There must be evidence, like his stamp on the documents. That's enough. I quietly brought out a new stack of evidence. We have comprehensive proof of Henry's fraudulent transactions, carried out independently. Henry froze, his body stiffening at my words. You underestimated me, didn't you? But as a certified bookkeeping specialist, I identified your irregularities long ago. I placed the new evidence firmly on the table. Henry, you passed off various accounting tasks to me because you wanted to avoid the effort yourself. That gave me access to the evidence I needed. I held up a USB drive and continued. After you forced me out, you attempted to delete records from the financial system, didn't you? Henry gasped again. But I had already backed up the data. Copies of everything are securely stored, so your efforts were futile. Damn it. Henry. You've done something unforgivable. Mr. Yates's anger was palpable. I continued speaking. And it appears that the funds you misappropriated were redirected for other purposes. Further investigations are underway regarding this matter as well. So, the issue isn't limited to Henry's misconduct, is it? I nodded firmly. Henry, you've let me down. Mr. Yates's voice carried a mixture of anger, disappointment, and sorrow, the emotions of a leader betrayed by someone he had trusted for years. You misused $15 million in capital investment funds. You forged my approval stamp, and in this manner. Mr. Yates's anger, more intense than I had ever seen, made Henry shrink further into himself. Mr. Yates, I can explain. Silence. His roar echoed through the meeting room. I was puzzled. I couldn't believe Terrence would fabricate anything. But to think there was such a scheme behind it all. Henry, as a department head, as a candidate for vice president, I trusted you. And yet, Mr. Yates shot Henry a sharp look before turning to me. I owe you an apology. I did something unforgivable to you. He bowed deeply, a gesture filled with the weight of his pride as a leader and his acknowledgement of his failure. I allowed someone like Henry to dictate my actions and drove out a talented employee like you. On top of that, I failed to see his corruption. I am unfit to be president. Raising his head, Mr. Yates looked at me with a desperate plea in his eyes. Could you give me another chance? As president, I must protect the lives and futures of my employees. I ask for your help to make that possible. There was no pride or arrogance left, only the sincerity of a man trying to take responsibility. Mr. Yates, I began quietly. Do you remember the day of my interview 5 years ago? Mr. Yates nodded firmly. When I handed you my resume, you said something I've never forgotten. I paused, revisiting that moment in my mind. Academics don't matter. What's important are the knowledge and the drive to improve. You have both, Terrence. You looked at me as a person, not just a set of qualifications. Mr. Yates's eyes glistened with emotion. Yes, I remember. I've carried those words with me ever since. I said, pulling out new documents. That's why we've drafted a comprehensive restructuring plan for your company. What? Based on my expertise as an SME consultant and actuary, I've prepared a 5-year recovery plan. It includes projections for the aviation industry's capital investment plans and the accompanying cash flow forecasts. As I spread the documents across the table, I continued. However, there are conditions. Yates Industries must overhaul its management structure and establish a new framework. Most importantly, you're suggesting we limit unilateral authority at the top. I agree. We cannot allow another Henry to emerge. After a firm nod, I extended my hand. Mr. Yates looked at me with the same warm, fatherly gaze he had during my interview years ago and shook my hand with resolve. A month later, during a visit to Yates Industries regarding the loan, Mr. Yates informed me about Henry's current situation. Henry had been terminated with cause and was under investigation for fraudulent accounting and embezzlement of company funds. He was being interrogated by the police. The total amount embezzled exceeded $2 million, and it was clear that a prison sentence would be inevitable once the case went to trial. By chance, I saw Henry on the street one day. The once proud man was unrecognizable. His suit was wrinkled, and his beard had grown unkempt. His vacant eyes didn't glare at anyone, they simply stared into the void. Later, Henry was sentenced to prison, and the court ordered him to pay damages to the company. After his release, no one knew where he went. Meanwhile, Yates Industries began its journey toward renewal. As the president, I failed to recognize the flaws in our company's culture. Henry's actions caused undue stress to everyone here. I know an apology can't undo the damage, Mr. Yates said, bowing deeply to the assembled employees. Not a word was spoken. The employees waited for what he would say next. Slowly, Mr. Yates raised his head and looked at each of them in turn. From this moment, we must change. Together. Thus, Yates Industries launched a new office for corporate reform to spearhead a comprehensive transformation. The Reform Office brought together young and mid-career employees from various departments to propose practical improvements, ranging from streamlining workflows to simplifying approval processes. One of the highest priorities was implementing a new accounting system to prevent fraud. Spending above a certain threshold required multiple approvals, and transaction records were fully digitized to ensure traceability. The unilateral authority of department heads was also restricted, and a system was established where critical decisions required oversight from multiple parties. Additionally, the company enhanced its whistleblowing system, allowing employees to communicate their concerns directly to management. Alongside these reforms, Yates Industries was transforming into a more transparent and open organization where everyone felt encouraged to share their opinions. A month passed, and the results began to show. We've reduced work hours by 30%. The new accounting system allowed us to present clear figures to our clients, and we're getting positive responses towards signing contracts. Mr. Yates listened to these updates with a radiant expression, his eyes moist with emotion as he absorbed the good news from his team. Inspire Bank also recognized these efforts, deciding to continue their financial support for Yates Industries. Mr. Yates expressed his gratitude during a phone call. Meeting you, Terrence, has been our greatest fortune. I'll continue to count on you. Yes. The weight of his words was something I would never forget. 5 years later, my contributions to Yates Industries' transformation earned me a spot as a founding member of a new bank in Asia. 7 years had passed since I joined Inspire Bank. Singapore is crucial as a financial hub in Asia. We need your analysis, Terrence, the project leader said as we left a meeting room. I nodded with a smile. And as for my relationship with Melanie, Sorry, I'm late. I thought you forgot about our plans. Melanie's hair swayed gently in the breeze, and her white dress made her look like an angel. Even the way she pouted was incredibly cute, and I couldn't help but smile. After months of busy overseas work, today was the long-awaited date with Melanie that we had planned 3 months ago. I'm so excited about the amusement park. Me too. When we first met, Melanie was a university student. Now, she's a working professional, leading a busy life as an MR for a pharmaceutical company. We spent the day enjoying go-karts, spinning teacups, and roller coasters, laughing so much we nearly lost our voices. Acting as if we were kids again. As the sun set in perfect timing, we decided to ride the Ferris wheel. Terrence, Her sudden serious gaze caught me off guard, leaving me at a loss for words. I could feel my face turning red and instinctively looked toward the night skyline to hide it. It's beautiful, isn't it? Ha! Melanie's cheeks flushed red. Well, it's just... Of course, I mean, the view too. My heart pounded fiercely in my chest. Today, I had to say it. No more hesitation. Summoning all my courage, I opened my mouth. Melanie, I like. Just then, the gondola swayed, and Melanie instinctively clung to me. Sorry. As she tried to pull away, I gently held her closer. I like you, Melanie. So? I like you too, Terrence. I always have, from the moment we met. Before I realized it, our lips met in a tender kiss. Next week, my life of traveling overseas would begin once again. As we parted, Melanie leaned in close and whispered in my ear. You know, I really love kids. What? Does that mean? No one can live alone. We love, and we are loved. Sometimes we get hurt, and sometimes we give or receive help. What truly matters isn't education or status. It's living earnestly for someone, for something. And realizing how fortunate you are to have people who respond to those efforts with their own care and support. That's the answer my mother taught me, and it has become the guiding principle of my life. If you have a problem with us, we'll all quit. That's what they said as they handed me hastily scrawled resignation letters. The letters mockingly read, "We're quitting because Timothy told us to." I never said anything of the sort. However, they had no real intention of quitting. They were just mocking me, enjoying themselves at my expense. I had a peaceful life with my wife and daughter, simple but fulfilling. That all changed one day. It started when the 3 sons of the executives joined the company. For some reason, I became their target, treated like a servant. Eventually, the situation escalated to the point where even my family was endangered. The executive sons uploaded my family's personal information online. That was when I swore revenge. I took my plea directly to Mr. Olsen, our company CEO, who was on a business trip to South Korea. Please, I'm begging you. Accept their resignations. Upon learning the truth, Mr. Olsen was shocked and furiously enraged. My name is Timothy, and I'm 44 years old. I work as a manager in the cosmetics department at OK Trading, a company specializing in importing overseas cosmetics and goods. Lately, our focus has been on trending South Korean cosmetics. Mr. Olsen is deeply passionate about Korean cosmetics, visiting the country weekly to discover and introduce new products to Japan. It was his initiative that brought Starry Rouge, a lipstick,
to Japan after it became a sensation among young women in South Korea last year.
It had adorable packaging with reliable quality. When applied, it sparkles like stardust, transforming from a seemingly blue hue in the tube to a different color on the lips. It adjusts to the wearer's natural lip tone, creating shades of pink or red.
What's more, both the color and the shimmer are long-lasting, and the price is very affordable.
With features like these, it's a cosmetic that not only young girls but anyone would want to try. Unsurprisingly, it went viral on Japanese social media, sparking a shopping frenzy.
Starry Rouge became our best-selling item, with over 100,000 units sold, earning legendary status in the cosmetics world.
Smiling proudly, Mr. Olsen often reminisces about its success. You've got to be generous with samples. Once people try them, they'll buy them.
That's why I insisted every store have 3 sample sets.
Typically, cosmetic counters have just one set of samples.
In some stores, they're incomplete or even missing altogether. But with a generous approach to providing samples, they captured the hearts of women. Customers who intended to buy just one shade often found themselves purchasing multiple colors instead. It was a victory for his clever marketing strategy.
Korea is a treasure trove.
There are still plenty of products waiting to become hits. I'll keep finding them and bringing them to Japan to make young women happy. He beams with enthusiasm.
Honestly, I think Mr. Olsen has great taste.
Both my wife and my daughter, Amelia, who's in 5th grade this year, enjoy using Korean cosmetics.
According to my wife,
even young girls like Amelia can safely have fun with products like lip tints or blush as long as they choose brands gentle on the skin. With such positive feedback from my family, I felt motivated and proud of my work.
However, my peaceful life began to crack in an unexpected way.
Mr. Olsen frequently travels to South Korea for business, leaving the company under the management of the executives during his absence. The most trusted among them are Robert, Miles and Oliver, collectively known as the Three Musketeers. They have long served as Mr. Olsen's right-hand men, with a proven track record of steering our company forward. However, this year something unusual happened. Robert's son, Ryan, Oliver's son, Simon, and Miles's son, Stephen, all joined the company. None of them were fresh graduates, and their ages and educational backgrounds were all over the place. Even the least observant could tell they were hired through connections, but Mr. Olsen regarded them warmly. They're the promising newcomers who will carry the future of our company. Everyone, take good care of them. Mr. Olsen, who loves children, had never been blessed with any of his own after marriage. So, when he heard that the executive's children were joining the company, he was genuinely delighted.
But the executive's sons, oblivious to his sentiments, ran wild. Within a week of joining, they began behaving as they pleased.
Naturally, their executive parents didn't say a word to them. In fact, the executives themselves were often nowhere to be found, and on bad days, completely unreachable.
The executive's sons had an outrageous schedule, arriving at the office around 3 p.m.
They strolled in casually, only to spend the rest of the day absorbed in games.
Yes.
First place, Simon shouted, raising his fist triumphantly.
That's unfair.
Let's do a rematch, one of the others complained. Simon, grinning as he rubbed his nose happily, was a big eater. It seemed they were using the game results to decide who would pay for their meal.
No way. I won, so Ryan has to buy pizza.
Some days they played mobile games, while on others they brought gaming consoles into the office, creating a ruckus as they played.
It was as if they didn't realize they were in a workplace. Man, I'm starving.
Oh, in that case, let's call Timothy.
Hearing my name suddenly called out, I froze in shock.
Timothy, go to McDonald's and grab us some burgers.
Don't mess up the order, okay? Take notes. Though stunned, I firmly refused. I'm working right now. I can't do that. Stephen's face twisted in irritation. Oh? Do you think it's okay to talk to us like that?
His glare was intense, and though it startled me, I could tell he was used to this sort of behavior.
He'd probably been pushing people around with unreasonable demands since his school days. On another day, something similar happened. Timothy, call Pizza World and ordered delivery. 2 seafood and 2 margarita pizzas. Again? This sets a terrible example for the other employees. Please stop asking me to do things like this. I protested earnestly, but they clearly didn't care about my opinion. Useless. Fine, you over there, ordered delivery. They acted as if such arrogant behavior was perfectly acceptable. Whenever they were hungry, they would summon employees and order them to buy fast food or pizza. When they got bored of gaming, they shifted gears, announcing plans to promote the company. Our website is so outdated. Let's upload a video about the company. On BooTube. That's a great idea. Let's do it.
They started filming around the office, but the results were appalling. For instance, they filmed confidential products currently under negotiation without a second thought. Panicked, I stepped in to stop them.
The 3 of them didn't even try to hide their displeasure. Don't get in the way.
Stephen immediately pouted and complained.
They clearly believed they could get away with anything. A wave of frustration rose within me.
This product is confidential.
Filming is absolutely prohibited. Stephen scowled and turned away sulking. Trying to shift the focus, Ryan pointed toward the female employees. Then let's film the girls instead. A beauty shoot. Excitedly, they started pointing their cameras at the attractive employees, ignoring everyone else. Simon jumped on the bandwagon, cheering, "Yeah, that's great. Let's do it," as the atmosphere grew rowdier.
"Come on, Catherine, you're beautiful.
Step over here and let us take some pictures of you." The female employee, clearly uncomfortable, tried to avoid them.
They didn't care about anyone else's feelings as long as they were having fun, that was all that mattered. But just when I thought they'd continue pestering the female employees, they crossed another line by addressing a middle-aged woman passing by.
"Oh. Hey, are you trying to get in the shot? Seriously? Spare us. Ugly people can just move along."
The woman, visibly hurt, walked away with a deeply offended expression. It was an appalling remark that anyone would find repulsive. This workplace, plagued by the trio's jeers and insults, had become unbearable.
Female employees, desperate to avoid confrontation, would retreat to the restroom in groups. With this nonsense happening every day, no work got done.
The next day, before the executive sons arrived, a group of employees gathered at my desk. With serious expressions, they began reporting the trouble they had experienced.
"Timothy, you've got to do something about those 3. We can't get any work done. They act like children and keep disrupting everything." I was at my wit's end.
Mr. Olsen was in South Korea with Tyler, the department head, and none of the executives had been reachable since the previous day. To the executive sons, I was probably just some insignificant underling, but I couldn't stand by while everyone suffered.
When they arrived later that day and immediately began their antics, I finally decided to confront them. "Do you guys understand this is a workplace?"
Ryan stared at me, his forehead creasing with irritation.
"And who do you think you are, acting all high and mighty? You're just a manager." I was subjected to humiliating insults. "Know your place.
The 3 of us are the thoroughbreds who'll carry this company forward."
Simon also chimed in with sharp remarks. Finally, Stephen made a suggestion, clearly enjoying himself. "I've got a great idea. You're going to be in our video. We'll reveal all your personal info."
Before I could react, they grabbed me, pinning my body tightly.
"What are you doing? I can't breathe," I screamed in distress. "Take his phone." The other 2, laughing gleefully, pulled my phone out of my pocket. "Stop it."
Stephen, who was heavy-set, leaned his weight on me, making it hard to breathe. When they finally released me, I was left gasping for air, tears welling in my eyes.
Hilarious. This phone isn't even locked. You're so careless, Timothy.
The three of them burst into loud laughter.
What's in the photo folder?
Forbidden pics, maybe?
Let's expose everything.
They started rummaging through my photo folder without permission and found pictures of my wife and daughter.
Oh, look. You've got a cute daughter. Her name's Amelia, right? Poor kid.
Stuck with a father like this, so unreliable and so useless.
And now, getting exposed on social media? How sad.
It became clear they were planning to upload our family pictures to the popular social media platform Twitter.
Please, calm down. Leave my daughter out of this. This has to be a joke. Please calm down, you'd better say, I'm begging you. Why are you always so condescending? It's annoying.
Desperate, I tried to resist, only to be shoved to the ground by Stephen.
Done. Uploaded to Twitter. Congrats, Timothy, you're famous now.
I tried to grab my phone back to delete the post.
However, Stephen, laughing loudly, pinned me down again, leaving me helpless.
I could hear murmurs of "this is too much" from the employees watching nearby.
Did someone say something? I thought I heard something.
Afraid of their rampage, no one dared to speak up, and everyone quietly returned to their work.
I let out tears of frustration. Why do I have to endure this?
When I protested, the three of them smirked, looking down at me with disdain.
Hey, don't you get yet how important our parents are?
Stephen said, grinning as he playfully tapped me on the head.
All I could say was a "please stop" in a whisper.
Then Ryan grabbed my hair and ruffled it roughly.
Can that little brain of yours even comprehend it?
Poor little head, he mocked, laughing.
The three of them burst into laughter, telling me I should go back to kindergarten. Ryan then sniffed his hand exaggeratedly. Yuck, now I've got hair gel on my hand. Gross.
Muttering to himself, he wiped his hand on my shirt.
They were completely out of control, doing whatever they pleased. No matter what I said, it was useless. I sighed quietly.
Listen, if you go against us, our parents will crush you like a bug.
Simon threatened with a menacing tone.
At this point, they seemed less like rookie employees and more like members of some criminal organization.
It wasn't just him.
Stephen, as if finding it impressive, spoke with equal roughness. I'll show you we're not all talk. Hearing this, I was paralyzed with fear, wondering what was about to happen. They dragged me forcibly to the HR department.
What are you planning to do?
The thought of what terrible things they might do sent chills down my spine.
But not knowing was just as terrifying, so I asked. Timothy, congratulations. You've been reassigned to the supply management room. What?
I let out a pathetic sound, unable to process what I just heard.
What did they mean? Did they really have that kind of authority, or was my mind just going completely blank? Puff, puff. Stephen mimicked a comedian from TV, fooling around. The executive's sons burst out laughing at his antics. To my shock, I had been reassigned to a different department while Mr. Olsen was away. After working in the sales department, I was now ordered to work in the supply management room.
Even this might be a bit challenging for a kindergarten-level brain like yours, but hey, consider it our kindness. From a frontline role handling product promotions and campaigns, I was abruptly moved to a position dealing with tasks like replacing light bulbs and tissues. My brain cannot process that.
Serves you right. From manager to just another employee.
You should have just done as we said.
Even the HR staff looked at me with pity.
It seemed the executive's son's notorious reputation had spread far and wide.
That day, I trudged home utterly dejected. How could I explain this to my family?
On top of that, I felt a looming sense of danger. By the time they returned my phone at the end of the day, it was clear they had gone through a lot of my personal information and photos.
If I left things as they were, something terrible could happen. I couldn't risk it.
I decided to send my wife and Amelia to my parents' house for safety.
I'm sorry, but could you two stay at my parents' for a while? Hearing this without any warning, my wife and Amelia were understandably shocked.
I didn't want to explain the situation, but I had no choice. I bowed deeply to my wife, who was visibly shaken.
I'm sorry. The truth is, while Mr. Olsen is away, those guys are doing whatever they please.
Their parents, the executives, are turning a blind eye.
I can't risk something happening to you both.
Please stay at my parents' house until this situation is resolved.
Amelia looked reluctant about missing school, but she eventually agreed. This won't last too long, right? My wife asked anxiously. Of course not. Mr. Olsen will be back soon, and I believe he'll take care of it. Just hold on until then. I'm really sorry. Please forgive me.
I also apologized to Amelia, who didn't fully understand the situation.
Amelia, I'm sorry.
I promise I'll deal with these bad guys, so you can go to school without worry. She nodded firmly at my words. And so, I began living alone for the time being.
The next day,
I was officially stripped of my position and reassigned to a menial department due to the executive son's arbitrary personnel decisions.
As usual, the trio showed up at 3 p.m.
Then, for some twisted amusement, someone suggested, let's check out how Timothy is doing in his new role. They came to watch me while I was changing a light bulb in the sales department.
With a stance like that, you're going to drop the bulb and break it. What nonsense!
I thought to myself, when Stephen stepped forward again. Oops. He pretended to stumble and bumped into me on purpose, causing me to lose my grip. Before I could even process what was happening, the bulb slipped from my hand and shattered on the floor.
See? Told you so. They laughed in unison. If Timothy can't even handle this, what kind of work can we possibly give him?
Stephen shrugged theatrically, putting on an exaggerated what a shame expression.
I trembled with anger. Enough is enough. But the executive sons brushed it off and doubled down. If you've got a problem, we'll all quit. Excuse me? I blurted out without thinking. If only they truly meant it, how wonderful that would be.
Seeing my reaction, Simon smirked and took it a step further.
Why don't we prove it? Not that you'd believe us anyway. Hey, hand me that paper. Let's write it down together.
The three of them huddled together for a while, then handed me a piece of paper with a smug, "Here you go." On it was written, "We are resigning because Timothy told us to quit," complete with all three of their signatures.
Not that a scrap of paper like this is worth anything, they said, their tone dripping with disdain. Their attitude was entirely mocking, but inside, I felt like I'd just hit the jackpot. Still, I was careful not to let even a hint of my excitement show. Besides, if it really came to that, you'd be the one in trouble, Timothy. And I'm sure Mr. Olsen wouldn't be happy either.
In the end, I had no choice but to stay silent. I swept up the shards of broken glass on the floor with a broom and dustpan. Satisfied with their little game of making me their plaything, they started another annoying conversation.
Man, I'm hungry. Let's order some delivery.
Oh, since Timothy broke the light bulb, he should pay for our lunch out of his own pocket.
Why should I have to apologize to them? Why should I be the one treating them to lunch?
And yet, in this company, such absurdities were accepted without question. In the end, I was forced to pay $50 for their lunch. When I returned to the supply management room, frustration and anger boiled over inside me.
This wasn't why I had joined this company.
Steeling myself, I made the decision to call Mr. Olsen.
Hey, Timothy, what's up? We're about to finalize the contract with South Korea's Ocean Lady Company and bring the products back. Look forward to it. With a trembling voice, I spilled everything to Mr. Olsen.
Mr. Olsen, Robert, and the other two executives have been completely unreachable.
Meanwhile, their sons are wreaking havoc in the company every day.
Yesterday, I was forcibly reassigned to the supply management room.
And that's not all. They've exposed my family's personal information online.
I'm begging you, please fire those troublemakers, the executive sons. My heartfelt plea, like a cry of blood, left Mr. Olsen speechless.
I can't believe something like this is happening. But Timothy, I trust you.
I know you're not the type to lie or trap others unfairly.
And I know how patient you are.
For someone like you to be suffering this much, it must be a serious crisis. His words resonated deeply with me. Without hesitation, he made a firm decision.
Let's show them the power of a single piece of paper. Email me their resignation letters immediately. I'll accept them.
I felt the tension drain from my body.
That's Mr. Olsen for you. He believed in me.
I was glad I had mustered the courage to speak to him directly. Over the phone, Mr. Olsen sounded deeply disappointed and furious.
I can't believe this happened while I was away. This is beyond insulting. I'm coming back right away.
Summon Robert and the other executives. And of course those worthless sons of theirs. His tone grew harsher. However, I had a plan in mind, so I asked Mr. Olsen to keep the acceptance of those resignation letters a secret for the time being. It would be better to get rid of all the rot in the company while we're at it.
I see.
I'll leave it to you. True to his word, Mr. Olsen returned a few hours later. He appeared before the entire staff, smiling as usual. Known for his kindness, he was affectionately nicknamed the Buddha behind his back.
Everyone, thank you for working so diligently while I was away. I've brought souvenirs for you all.
He handed out his favorite Korean cosmetics to the female employees and trendy clothing from Korea to the male employees. Even the executive sons, unusually subdued, accepted their gifts with a polite thank you. Such a stylish shirt.
I really love it.
They offered compliments, but then Mr. Olsen dramatically exclaimed,
"Oh, I made a mistake. These aren't your souvenirs."
Hearing this, the executives standing behind their sons looked slightly pleased. They must have assumed their sons were about to receive something even more luxurious.
Things didn't go as they hoped.
Robert, Oliver, Miles, let's start with your souvenir.
I've heard you've been using my name to attempt a buyout of the Chinese cosmetics giant. Aryan Pink. Robert's face turned pale with shock. I don't know anything about that. That was all Oliver's doing. What? Don't lie, Robert.
You were the one who came up with the idea to acquire both Aryan Pink and the Korean cosmetics giant Lilica Cosmetics to merge them.
And you were planning to slyly take over as CEO. Oliver lashed out at Robert. Stop it.
You're the one who said that if we used Mr. Olsen's name, both the Chinese and Koreans would do whatever we wanted. You even claimed you could run wild and bring OK Trading to its knees. Oliver, turning pale, tearfully pleaded with Mr. Olsen, "That's not true."
I never said anything like that. Meanwhile, Miles tried to feign innocence. As far as the Aryan Pink buyout goes, Robert and Oliver were behind it. Oliver wasn't around the office because of that. I had no involvement. Honestly, Mr. Olsen, I've always felt 3 executives are too many. Don't you think I'd be enough?
Hearing this, Oliver turned red with anger and shouted,
Miles,
I know the reason you weren't at the office. You were off playing mahjong. That's ridiculous. The scene devolved into an ugly quarrel.
Mr. Olsen let out a deep sigh. None of this matters anymore. While I was away, you abandoned the company. No one even knew where you were.
And yet you've had the audacity to act like proper executives.
It's shameful that I trusted you, and it makes me want to cry. Robert glared at Miles. Anyway, the stuff about Aryan Pink and Lilica Cosmetics is just a misunderstanding.
We'd never betray you, Mr. Olsen.
Mr. Olsen smiled kindly. Maybe so. I guess I'd become too suspicious. My apologies, everyone. Now, I have an announcement about a sudden personnel change I came up with during my flight back. Robert, you'll be transferred to Arian Pink's Beijing store as store manager, demoted from executive director. Oliver, you'll go to Lilica Cosmetics' Myeongdong store also as manager. And finally, Miles, though it's tiresome to explain, you'll be the manager of Lilica Cosmetics' Itaewon store. Wait, what? The executives' eyes widened in shock and they shouted. What's going on here? Hold on. We're executives, aren't we? Why are we being treated like store managers and sent on transfers? Mr. Olsen fixed the three executives with a cold stare. A gaze as indifferent as one might cast at stones by the roadside. Don't you get it yet? I've already bought out both Arian Pink and Lilica Cosmetics. I caught wind of your little scheme ahead of time. There's no place for traitors in my company. The three executives froze in place, their faces a mix of shock and disbelief. You should be grateful I'm not stripping you of your positions entirely. He turned his face away in exasperation. It was the executive sons who tried to intervene. Mr. Olsen, please wait. Isn't this a bit much? Oh. Is that what you think? Very well. You want a souvenir too, don't you? Let me show you something special. Here's my gift for you. Mr. Olsen gave me a signal. In response, I quickly set about preparing the PC. I've taken a good, hard look at how you three have been spending your time in the office. The executive sons flinched, exchanging uneasy glances. They began to fidget, clearly unsettled. In truth, I had arranged for employees who weren't under suspicion to secretly record the executive son's outrageous behavior. So, this is how you conduct yourselves on a regular basis. Mr. Olsen remarked, arms crossed as he watched the footage on the PC screen. The executive sons grew visibly paler by the second. For example, there were scenes of the three of them playing games and snacking while everyone else was busy working. They were shown forcing an employee, who was on an important call with a client, to hang up and place a fast food delivery order for them. They openly criticized female employees' appearances, calling them fat, old, or ugly, right to their faces, bringing some tears to them. They relentlessly pestered attractive female employees to join them for meals or drinks, and when rejected, hurled vicious insults at them. The sheer horror of these scenes left even their executive fathers speechless, clearly unprepared for how awful their son's behavior had been. You fools! What were you thinking? Miles bellowed at the sons, his fury erupting like a thunderclap. The sons still showed signs of resistance. No, this is illegal. Isn't this unauthorized filming? A violation of our image rights. Seizing the moment, I retorted sharply. Then what about the videos you forced female employees to appear in? Simon was at a loss for words. And let's not forget, you exposed my family on Twitter for everyone to see. It's laughable for you to make that argument now. Simon remained silent, so Ryan stepped forward. That was just youthful mischief. A prank. Right, guys? It was a desperate excuse. Surprisingly, Ryan's father, Robert, tried to support it. Yes, exactly. Look, Mr. Olsen, you've always said our sons are the thoroughbreds who will carry this company into the future. Surely they deserve a little understanding. He wrung his hands and looked at Mr. Olsen with a fawning, servile expression. He probably thought swaying Mr. Olsen would be easy. But at that moment, Mr. Olsen suddenly snapped. Even the Buddha's patience had reached its limit. Who's the fool here? Are you seriously trying to blame others for your failure as a parent? Everyone was stunned. The usually smiling and gentle Mr. Olsen had, for the first time, raised his voice in anger. The Buddha had transformed into a wrathful deity.
Furious from the depths of his soul, he relentlessly confronted the traitorous executives.
Like father, like son.
Irresponsible executives abandon the company while their sons show up at 3 p.m. to play around.
You've made a mockery of me and this company. Robert, Oliver, and Miles, I gave you every opportunity, and this is how you repay me?
The executives found themselves under a barrage of scathing criticism. And yet, even now, they were focused solely on saving their own skin.
Mr. Olsen, please forgive us. If you must punish someone, punish my son.
I had nothing to do with this.
Simon's eyes widened in shock.
He was clearly shaken, witnessing his father's true nature.
Dad, what the hell are you saying? Following Oliver's disgraceful example, Miles quickly chimed in. Yes. I'm not at fault. Actually, all of this is Robert's doing. Mr. Olsen, please cancel my transfer.
I don't care what happens to my son.
Stephen, though. The cold, ruthless words of the parents sent chills down the spines of all the employees. What kind of people are these? Do they only care about saving themselves? Of course. These brats are nothing but burdens. Tension filled the air between the parents and their children. Then, unbelievably, a full-blown brawl broke out between them. Loud crashes and thuds echoed through the office, a racket unthinkable for a workplace. Don't you have any shame, fighting like this in front of the employees?
Mr. Olsen shouted, but his words fell on deaf ears. The six of them hurled insults and fists at each other.
You heartless jerk. We lost the parental lottery.
Ryan screeched, grabbing Robert's suit collar.
Robert pushed him away, only to be shoved by Simon. The scrawny Ryan cheered, Nice one, Simon. You're not even worthy to be called parents. Angered by his son's remark, Oliver tripped Simon. Simon fell to the floor with a loud crash. Oliver stood over him, glaring down with a menacing intensity that was almost terrifying. After all I've done for you, this is how you repay me? Oliver's furious outburst seemed to embolden the other two executives. It appeared the parents' side was gaining the upper hand. That's right. Don't be ridiculous. We've had enough of children's nonsense. But the sons weren't ready to back down.
The large-framed Stephen stepped forward and grabbed both Robert and Miles by the scruff of their necks.
He tightened his grip, squeezing them mercilessly. The two executives coughed and choked in distress. You're the ones who ruined us. They began shifting blame recklessly and without reason. At that moment, Oliver was the first to notice Mr. Olsen's icy glare. Panicking, he rushed over to his son, Simon. Hey, Simon. Tell Mr. Olsen I'm not the bad guy here. Say it, you idiot. The office was complete mayhem. The female employees began pointing at something and whispering among themselves. Something unbelievable was happening. Ryan, who had been so defiant just moments ago, was acting strangely. Everyone turned to look, startled. He was sprawled on the floor, muttering to himself incessantly. It's all over. Dad said that joining this company would make me an executive in no time, but it's all a lie. He said I could easily aim for CEO too. But look at me now. I don't know what to do anymore. I'm just a useless burden on society.
Suddenly, Ryan began kicking his legs and whining like a child, tears streaming down his face.
Panicking, Robert tried to stop him, saying, "Stop it." Everyone's watching, but Ryan only grew more agitated and shouted even louder. You promised I'd have a beautiful secretary and endless relationships with women. You said I could have as many mistresses as I wanted. Didn't you go on a hot spring trip with one of the women from the secretary department? I wanted to be like that too. But I'm not the cool guy you wanted me to be, Dad. Nothing works out for me. I hate this. I hate this. The office froze in stunned silence. Robert, realizing his secret affair with a secretary had just been exposed,
floundered desperately.
Well, this is, No excuse could save him now.
The executives, still pale, could do nothing but watch their sons with disbelief.
You're all finished.
I trusted you, but that was clearly a mistake. Mr. Olsen's words were directed at all 6 of them, but the sons didn't seem to grasp the gravity of the situation.
What? Mr. Olsen, that can't be right. I mean, I'm not as capable as my dad, but I could still be a director, right? My mental strength isn't great.
But I'll try my best.
Yeah, Mr. Olsen, come on. We're still the company's promising newcomers. Cut us some slack.
Send our parents to China, Korea, or wherever you want.
We don't care to see their faces again. We'll cut ties with them. But as for us,
we're staying in this company. It was clear the sons still believed their positions were secure.
Having lousy parents makes life tough, huh?
Stephen said with a smile, as Simon gently patted Ryan on the shoulder.
Don't worry. We'll back you up, Ryan.
Stephen reached out his hand to help Ryan to his feet.
Thanks. We're a team. Let's keep supporting each other from now on.
It might have seemed like a touching moment of friendship if taken out of context, but Mr. Olsen wasn't swayed.
What nonsense are you spouting?
Your resignation letters have already been accepted. There's no place for you in this company anymore.
What? You're kidding, right? Stephen continued to laugh nervously. However, neither Mr. Olsen nor anyone else in the room was smiling.
Only then, he did finally realize that the resignation letters were real.
This can't be. That's right. We never wrote any resignation letters. Mr. Olsen let out a deep sigh.
I hold the authority over personnel matters.
It's over.
I can't keep people who've caused such damage to this company.
You're fired. That can't be.
I failed 65 job applications before finally getting into this company.
Stephen stood there in a daze.
Meanwhile, the rest of us were stunned by the sheer number, 65 failed applications. For the first time, I regret showing compassion. Mr. Olsen said with a bitter expression. Even so, he quickly composed himself and adopted a stern demeanor once again. Additionally, I will be filing for damages against the former executives. During my absence, they engaged in unauthorized acquisition activities,
squandered time gambling, and entertained female employees, all while tarnishing my name.
They'll pay for the harm they've caused to this company and others. The Secretary Department has already filed a complaint, Robert.
You'll also be questioned by the police. It seemed Robert was suspected of forcing a female employee to accompany him on a hot spring trip. At this point, the executives finally resigned themselves to their fate. They accepted that they would have to face the consequences of the law. Meanwhile, Stephen, now completely cornered, made one last desperate attempt to fight back. Timothy, I'm glad we exposed your daughter online. We may lose our jobs, but your daughter's going to be everyone's toy on the internet. Mr. Olsen erupted into laughter. I couldn't help but join in, laughing loudly. You're not just losing your jobs. I'll also be filing damages against you, sons. Your antics hurt our company's productivity. And as for Timothy's daughter Amelia. He paused, smiling mischievously. What? Stop dragging it out and just tell us. I couldn't help but smile, thinking, wow, what a turn of events. I recalled what had happened the night before. I had received a direct message from someone I didn't know, and it made me nervous, suspecting it was related to the personal information leak. At first, I thought it was just a prank, but when I followed up, it turns out that someone in the entertainment industry saw that Twitter post and reached out. They want my daughter to model for them. Yes, something truly unbelievable had happened. The message was from a major celebrity agency, one of the most famous in Japan.
I was so shocked that I pinched my cheeks multiple times to make sure I wasn't dreaming. I immediately called my wife and daughter to share the news. My wife was thrilled, and my daughter was so excited she couldn't stop squealing with joy.
Isn't this what they call a blessing in disguise?
As I proudly shared the news, the three sons stared at me with blank expressions, their mouths slightly open. Their faces clearly showed that they had absolutely no idea what I was talking about. Feeling even more triumphant, I continued.
Not only that, but Mr. Olsen also suggested that Amelia could be featured in an advertisement for teen cosmetics. With a celebrity agency backing us, we can handle the leaked personal information issue, so really, I should thank you. Astonished, the sons could only sigh in envy.
Among them, Stephen couldn't hold back and shouted,
"What? How is that even possible?"
"Well, sometimes, this is just how it works." Proud of my daughter, I couldn't help but boast, feeling on top of the world. From the side, Mr. Olsen pursed his lips and muttered,
"Probably a kind of luck you'll never experience in your lives."
For the record, Amelia, though only a fifth grader, stands at 165 centimeters tall with a remarkable figure. Her features are often praised as exceptionally well-defined, something that, as her parent, I can't help but take pride in. From now on, she'll be putting herself out there more, but there's nothing to worry about anymore. I looked at Mr. Olsen with a bright, relieved smile. Nodding with a warm smile, he said, "Amelia is going to do great things."
The executive's son stood there, utterly dumbfounded. "I can't believe the harassment we did ended up leading to this outcome. Idiot." "Forget that, what about us being unemployed again? What are we going to do? I'm done with job hunting. All they do is mock me, saying things like, 'Why are you even here?'" Crying and complaining, Simon slumped in defeat.
Meanwhile, Ryan dropped to his knees and bowed deeply before Mr. Olsen.
"Please, just don't fire us."
And so, the three sons bowed deeply, lining up to beg for forgiveness.
"Fine."
True to his nickname, the Buddha, he showed mercy once again. Ryan was rehired as a janitor, Simon as a staffer in the supply management room, and Stephen as a security guard. Though one had to wonder how long even these roles would last.
As expected, or perhaps inevitably, Ryan lasted just 1 week as a janitor.
Simon, assigned to the supply management room, quit after 4 days. Stephen, unsurprisingly, resigned after only 2 days. And with that, the three of them were back to being unemployed together. Their once reliable fathers were no longer executives. In fact, they were now working as mere store managers in foreign countries, struggling with language barriers. With no one left to turn to and no money to pay their damages, the trio fell deeper into ruin.
A few days later, Amelia's advertisement was in this morning's newspaper. My wife beamed with pride.
Amelia had become the talk of her school and seemed to be thriving every day. As I turned to the social news section, a headline read, "Unemployed trio rob convenience store and flee with cash."
Ah, they've finally hit rock bottom. The mugshots showed none other than the former executive's sons.
I was reinstated as department manager. Soon after, Tyler was promoted to executive, leaving the department head position vacant.
I was recommended to fill the role.
"I've caused you so much unnecessary trouble, Timothy, and I truly regret it. As we build a new structure for this company, I want you by my side."
"I'm counting on you."
Hearing those words moved me to the point of tears. I feel even more determined to work hard for Mr. Olsen. Recently, Amelia and Mr. Olsen have become quite close. He says she feels like a granddaughter to him.
I've got another idea. Next, I'll stock up on products that girls Amelia's age will absolutely love.
Mr. Olsen is energetically traveling across Asia again today, sourcing fresh and exciting products.
In the meantime, I'll make sure to keep the company running smoothly.
It feels strangely delightful to work in a calm, stable environment.
I hadn't realized how much I missed this. Today is the day Amelia has a photo shoot.
I think I'll pick up her favorite cake and go meet her afterward.